What's going on, podcasters? Welcome back. It's Level 1 Woke, the first step to waking up. We're back with another episode. And today we're going to be talking about the Sumerians, which are known as basically the cradle of civilization. They're credited for basically jump-starting civilization. And it's a lot of interesting text on their these old tablets that they discovered. I think there's over 1 million Sumerian tablets.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And there's a college, if you look it up, there's a college that actually translates these tablets for you. They have a virtual translator online, and you can pull these tablets off their virtual shelf, drop them into the translator, and you can read exactly what these texts say.
No.
And they have all 1 million of over 1 million of them in there that could be translated for you. So you start going back and start reading, and
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, we're talking about the Sumerians, and we're gonna get into probably the Akkadians, Arcadians, Babylonians. They were all they all kind of sprung from that same Mesopotamia area.
Right.
So I got a couple people here with me today, some new faces probably haven't seen. You can go ahead and introduce yourself. Greg. He's gonna be talking about the Sumerians with us. He has a little knowledge about it, done a little research. So we're gonna be discussing it and our views about it. We got Michelangelo over here.
Oh, how is everybody?
And
I'm Michelangelo.
He's Michelangelo, in case y'all were wondering. Yeah.
That's him.
That's Donatello. I'm Leonardo. So
it's gonna be cool, man. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Human history is always fun.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is with the Sumerians, what always had me questioning a lot of things is they're credited for everything that you can think of. Almost like I can go down the list all day. They're credited for creating and inventing just about everything. But they're not taught in, public schools or anything. Maybe they are in private schools, I'm not sure, but they're not taught in public schools. They're not taught in colleges or anything like that.
Right.
And it makes you wonder, if they're credited for so much inventions, how come the civilization, obviously super advanced, how are they not being talked about in the school system, in the education system?
That's a wonderful question. I don't know. I would
love to learn about this. I think it was because they taught about the Anunnaki, and I think that's probably why they're left out of modern texts and education tools, books and shit. But they spoke about the Anunnaki. They spoke about otherworldly deities coming down here and jump-starting civilization. And I mean, if you look at the Sumerian civilization, like geographically, they come up basically overnight out of nowhere. On the geographical time frame of evolution, of them evolving as culture-wise, it's like nothing. Hunter-gatherers, then boom, we got laws, we got money, we got forms of identification to identify people now. We have systems, political systems, religious system, kings. We worship gods now.
Out of nowhere.
Which there was over 100 different pagan gods that the Sumerians worshipped. And each city had its own god that watched over that city, which I think was probably like a king. And all their kings were priests, were religious people as well, religious priests for the most part.
I think we didn't learn about a lot of this stuff.
I'm gonna open this Jameson. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Shout out Jameson.
I think because they can't explain a lot of the stuff that went down there. There's no I knew this dude from Lebanon, and you ever heard of this megalithic stone? I think they call it the mother stone. It's this stone that weighs I don't know how many tons, but it's just.
I think it's over 200,000. I think there's 2 of them or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But it's just crazy.
Nobody could have moved that.
Yeah,
it's not. That stone's not from the region. Right. It's not like it was carved there. Yeah, for sure. It's open. It wasn't carved there. It was. It makes you think. They say Sumerian is the cradle of civilization, but then there's older things like Göbekli Tepe or Göbekli Tepe. Yeah, and then that that's dating back to like 13,000 years now. That's like right before the last ice age.
Word. Yeah.
So maybe it was covered by avalanche. They said it looks like it might have been naturally covered and hidden. Maybe it was a glacier up top, an avalanche came down. Maybe it was covered like that. Because everything in that region is underwater. There's structures in the Persian Gulf, which on these Sumerian tablets, that's where they claim that Anunnaki came and first touched down was the Persian Gulf. And they established Eridu, which Eridu is actually basically the first city of Sumeria, is Eridu. And if you read these fucking tablets, bro, it's fucking mind blowing. It literally translates the very first beginning of these. I think it was in 1840 or something like that. Some archaeologists found, they had started finding them then, but they're now called the 7 tablets of creation, which I'm pretty sure you heard of them, the Sumerian 7 tablets of creation, which was then adopted by Babylonians and given the name Enuma Elish, which is basically the 7 tablets of creation. And it tells about, this, I guess, these Anunnaki coming down from and touch down in the Persian Gulf. And if you go to the Persian Gulf and you look under there, there's structures under the water. And it tells it goes like, if Sumeria, you got the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is one of the oldest poems ever written. It's about 4,000 years old. It predates anything from the Bible. And it's about, and this Epic of Gilgamesh is about a king, a ruler that started off not so good. And then a lady took clay from the earth, put it in her womb, created another being that lived wild before he was civilized. And he challenged Gilgamesh. It was basically a stalemate. They became friends, traveled, like slayed demons.
Yeah.
One of the demons from the underworld, like, basically stopped them and said, I'll kill you if you go any further. They had more power than Gilgamesh, and I forgot other buddy's name. And Buddy didn't take it too well, and he slapped the chick. He slapped the goddess of the underworld, and then she ended up making him sick, and then he ended up dying, like, I don't know, a couple weeks later. Right. And then that's when Gilgamesh went on this journey of redemption and shit like that. But he comes across this guy. Fuck, I forgot his name. I wish I had my notes. But he came across this guy, and the guy in the Epic of Gilgamesh tells a story about a flood. Right. Which is basically the Christians' version of the flood of Noah, the Noah's Ark. Because in the Epic of Gilgamesh, there's a family that is warned about the oncoming flood, and there is they are instructed to build an ark, and they end up finding a mountain tip. They send a bird out, find an olive branch. All that shit from the Bible. Yeah, it goes back to Sumerian, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Yeah, man. And they follow the same guidelines. You think fucking Moby Dick was real and shit like that? You think Noah's Ark was real? Right. Like Moses split the Red Sea and shit like that? But that shit's in the Bible. That shit's folklore. That shit's in the Bible. And it's believable. But when you get to the Anunnaki's version of creation, they don't want to put it out there. It's not mainstream because they talk about the Anunnaki. Well, this is what it is. Zechariah Sitchin, famous author, researcher, he didn't translate the Sumerian tablets to say Anunnaki, which Anunnaki, the meaning behind Anunnaki is a couple different meanings. Zechariah Sitchin translated it to say those from heaven that came to earth. Yeah, right. Those from heaven came to earth. And a lot of other scholars say it means those of princely blood or those of kingly blood. Which, is the same thing, because when you start going back, their gods from their otherworldly gods were called kings too. So it's like, I can see what you're doing there. A lot of things mistranslated for you too, purposely mistranslated for sure, to throw you off and not sound exactly how it's supposed to sound. And the Sumerians, Zechariah Sitchin, he claimed that the Anunnaki, those from heaven that came to earth, came down here. So the Sumerians have basically our solar. I'm pretty sure you see the tablets.
Yeah, that's what trips me out about that.
They have our solar system perfectly depicted on their tablets.
Yeah, for them to have that knowledge that long ago, like, it don't matter what you translate those tablets to say, if he's right or he's wrong. The fact that these niggas put our solar system on this little tiny where they didn't have telescopes.
Every planet.
every planet
in order.
the
sizes and
like, come on,
sun in the middle.
That's weird if you ask me. You know what I'm saying?
And not only that,
that's what blows my mind about that.
They had a 10th planet on there, which they call Nibiru. Which now NASA finally admits that there's another planet far out on our galaxy that they're calling Planet X. It's far away, but it's still a part of our solar system and shit. Yeah. And it's surrounded by like 2 red dwarfs, 2 stars that blown out, 2 suns and shit. Like, and not only that, they just sent fucking probes back from Venus. There's breathable oxygen. You can go to Venus and pop your hood and fucking breathe. There's more oxygen on Venus than there is on Earth. That's where we're from, right? Venus, from Jupiter, bro. It's fucking bananas, dog. And it's closer to the sun. But the way that it rotates, it doesn't hit the sun enough for the sun to affect it the way it rotates. Bro, it's fucking wild. There's like a lot of core places that there's water in abundance on Venus. Water. There's ice on the moon. People don't know about that shit.
I believe it.
But the Sumerians, they knew about this 10th planet because it's on their fucking tablets, 7,000 years old, and they called it Nibiru. That's what Zechariah Sitchin translated to be Nibiru. Now NASA's admitting to it right now, and they're calling it Planet X.
I heard that they got the people from Nibiru. Then I heard that there's a couple of people on the tablet that they call like the fishmen. They look like they came from the water, but they were intelligent.
All right, I don't know about the fish, but because they had gods for everything, like Enki, Enlil, like all of them was a god of water, the god of wind. And if you think about it, they're worshiping nature, wind, water, sun. These are their gods. They're making it seem like they're people, but they're worshiping nature is what they're doing.
I dig that.
Yeah. And but interesting thing about the fish, look up a fish god. What's his name? There's a fish god that, bro, this shit. All right, Christians right now, they worship a fucking fish god, right? Because if you look at the Pope and you look at him sideways, his hat is a fish head open, right? So there's a fish god that wore that same garment. You can Google it and look it up. Look it up real quick. Just look fish god. That was Sumerian, and it's gonna be the first dude. His name might start with an M. I'm not sure, but the thing is, that's why Christians today have a fish on the back of their car to represent their religion. They're fucking worshiping a fish god, bro.
I mean,
Dagon.
Dogon. Yeah,
that's African though, right there.
No. Let me see it. It's the white dude with the hat. Look at the image, and he got a hat, and it's a long garment with a fish head on top, and it's like a boom. That's it right there. Dagon. Yeah, but yeah, and that's a fish god. That's a Christian fish god.
Right.
So, but that's all I really got into when I started getting into like fish gods with the Sumerians. But the thing is Zechariah Sitchin's claim that this planet Nibiru came into our solar system. I think it was on a rotation that came through every 3,600 years or whatever.
26,000 years or something.
Yeah, and
it says his name is actually Ugaritic.
That nigga.
Damn, yeah, Ugaritic.
Yeah, I don't know. Weird.
But there's like a bunch of other.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Names for it.
So not to get off, but back to the Sumerians, right? This guy Zechariah Sitchin claims that these tablets say that like around 500,000 years ago,
right,
their planet was deteriorating their solar system, and they
needed gold for their atmosphere or something like that.
Well, they needed to figure out a way to. I think they were looking for a gold element, but it wasn't gold as we know it. It was a powder form of gold, and actually. High-end cars like Teslas and Mercedes and Ferraris, they don't have tint because they have gold particles and that gold dust in their windshield that naturally reflects the sunlight.
Dude,
yeah, look that shit up, guys. So that's why the Anunnaki came. I believe I believe their atmosphere was dying, and one of the kings that was ruling at the time, I don't know if it was Enlil or who it was couldn't figure out a way to save them, so like somebody else like dethroned him basically and took his place. He fled and landed on Earth. He found out that there was gold like by abundance here and that could help them, so they sent for like missions to come back. These guys had port stations, and these tablets say they had port stations surrounding space stations in the atmosphere, and they were descending down to Earth multiple times. Multiple people descended down from Earth.
Sure.
And they had brought a similar race to them called the Agigi. the Gigi or the Gigi.
Right.
And they were basically doing all the hard labor for the Anunnaki. They were mining all the gold, and the stories go that that Gigi rebelled against the Anunnaki. They didn't want to do all the labor and shit. Yeah, they were slaves,
working class,
and they were considered inferior. So they rebelled mistakenly. They shouldn't have, and they basically all got wiped out. And the Anunnaki was basically the gods, I guess, were left to do their own work.
Right.
And that could be what the remnants of Neanderthals are. They could have been the Gigi running around still out there in the woods and shit. That the ones that didn't die, and you know. And then it's crazy because you get to the point where it's like, all right, there's nothing here but you know, Homo erectus and shit like that, which is upwalking apes and shit like that, you know, using tools and shit. Couple million years ago, and you know that's what's here, you know, our ancestors. And you know, supposedly the story went that they genetically manipulated the ape woman. They spliced us. They genetically manipulated the ape woman is how the story went. And it was said that they came out with a couple different creations from the beginning, and that could have been the elongated skulls that we're finding on Earth. It could have been the dwarf island people. Like that could have been different creations that failed until they, I think, finally ended up mixing their own Anunnaki DNA with Homo erectus. I think they took eggs from a female or eggs from a male and planted in an Anunnaki female, which I think was Enlil's mother, and she carried it till full term. And that's how they produce like the homo, like us, the Homo sapiens, to be their slave and, you know, work for gold. And they worship these people like gods. Like everybody been to Sunday worship, and worship in the Hebrew it's avad, and the Semitic meaning for avad is to work for. So these people literally had no choice but to work for their gods, and that's what they were doing. They were mining gold. They wanted to make a person or a being that was smart enough to take orders and work, but not question, like kind of like us. We don't question above our authority. We don't seek above our class. We're okay with how everything's going. We don't try to fucking fight and protest and change shit. Like by the time you hit 30, 35, like they took that energy out of you already. The system is designed to take that energy out of you, so you don't got that fight in you no more. So, but not to get too far off that Anunnaki and shit, because I wander off. I'll start talking about all kinds of fucking shit.
That's interesting. Like I don't take it for like this is exactly what happened, but for a story to be that old and to talk about the shit that they talk about, like the battles that the two brother had, or battles in the sky and shit. I
mean, it's got to have some credibility if fucking Christians believe in Christ and believe in the flood of Noah, because the flood of Noah comes from Sumerian tales. So there's got to be some.
I'll talk on that too.
There's
my thoughts on that, but so like there's a similar story that's going around. I mean, that's going around. It's an epic poem in India. It's like, or in the Hindu culture, it's called like the Mahabharata.
The Mahabharata. The Mahabharata.
That's the one. That one too, right?
Same shit. They have the flood in there too.
Man, they have a whole bunch of shit, and that story is
Mahabharata.
Right. And there's another one that sounds similar to that. But anyway.
I've been looking into that, the Hammurabi laws, the Apocrypha text.
But it's also about a battle between these two brothers that were ruling.
Enki and Enlil, basically.
Sure, with different names, right? But so and they said that they had battles in the sky, and it was like floating cities in the sky, and
that comes from Sumerian though.
Sure, wherever it comes from, the shit that they were talking about is crazy though. Like they would describe like. Giant arrows moving like with columns of smoke.
This is what happens with this process, right? I'm gonna explain to you what they were talking about, because I know what you're talking about. And this is how the process happens. When the first civilization tells a story and they're taking over, basically all their history becomes the next civilization's history, and they put their own twist on it. So that's a Sumerian story, and what they're explaining is the Big Bang in the sky. Because even the Sumerian text goes back and it says first it was void, like almost like the Genesis. There was void, it was nothing, and then there was chaos. They're explaining the Big Bang, and when they're talking about Eridu and Tiamat and what's the other one with the M? Tiamat and Marduk. They're talking about planets colliding into each other, going to war. You can see like it's a war. They're talking about planets colliding. That's how we got our moon, because our moon is.
Check this part out though, right? As far as I can get that, the analogies and the philosophies, but I used to drive Lyft, right? That's like Uber or whatever. And a lot of people that I would pick up were Indian people. And I would ask them these questions like, yo, you know about the Mahabharata, the Vimanas and shit like that. And they're like, yeah, nigga, that shit is real. Like, yeah, I don't believe in that
Yeah,
stuff,
everybody,
like,
if you ask anybody about their culture, they're going to.
Sure, but it gets freakier, all right? So they're talking about, like, nuclear war, essentially, all right? And there's even a part there's even a part in the poem where something crashed and landed on a city and it decimated the whole city. Like,
what do you think the story of Solomon being destroyed and all those and Jericho and city of Jericho? Jericho was one of the Anunnaki outposts. That's why it got destroyed and shit. That shit's deep as fuck.
Hell yeah.
I wonder if, like, what if it was just like a gnarly thunderstorm, you know? And that's
so here's what hear me out, right? So here's what blows my mind even more. So they're talking about a nuclear war that happened thousands of years ago. And that land where supposedly this war happened, like the glass, I think it's called vitrified or something like that, where sand
turns to glass. So if you go to Cairo in Egypt and you run your hands through the sand, you can pick up pieces of glass.
Right.
And the only thing that can cause sand to turn to glass is like atomic warfare.
Right.
But then if you go to that, also on Mars, you got signs of atomic warfare on Mars. Okay. The whole solar system there was destroyed by atomic warfare.
Y'all, I'm not racist, y'all. Which one's my camera? I'm not racist, but hear me out. A lot of these Indian people, they have like extra digits, extra limbs. Like a lot of these, like when.
I mean, that's nothing. That's evolution. That's a lot of those people that live off the coast.
Remnants.
A lot of
Chernobyl shit.
Yeah.
A lot of people that live off the coast of Indonesia, they can dilate their pupils at will underwater.
Right.
They're
That's
evolving to do that, bro.
Right.
So imagine, like, it's wild, bro. The earth is wild. We were in water at one point. Sure. We sweat water, the most valuable thing on the planet. We sweat it. We're made up of it. Dude. Our fingers and toes are semi-webbed. Dude. We have a layer of fat in our skin that protects us, like insulation from water and shit. Yeah, like we ain't come from monkeys, bro. Yeah. You drop a newborn baby in water, it's automatically gonna try to swim. It's gonna hold its breath and try to swim. You do that to a monkey, it's gonna fucking drown. Yeah. It's not. We ain't come from monkeys. They don't have a layer. They have a layer of fat inside their fucking muscles. Right. That works for insulation. We have ours in our tissue, our fat tissue, our skin. So
evolution, baby.
But yeah, we didn't come from no fucking monkeys. Fuck a tailbone, bitch. We were some kind of mammals. Some kind of mammals.
I'm down with it. I can see.
We were definitely in the water at some point. We had to be, or maybe it's just we drink so much. But you can't explain the semi-web, the natural instinct to swim.
I can see it, bro.
Yeah.
What's like a whale, orca is like its predecessor was like this giant wolf-like animal that roamed the land, and then it just found more food in the water.
Wild gators. Look at you. I would believe there's a whole bunch of land water mammals that can do both and shit. But
I'm just saying, so I can see it.
It's possible. It's possible. But yeah, so these fucking Anunnakis, they came. They supposedly created the human to do its work for us, and I told you already how worship worship in Hebrew is avad. The Semitic meaning for avad is to work for. Wow. And one of the oldest religious books I think is the Torah, and Torah, Semitic meaning for Torah is to give instructions, to lead, and every all these old languages and cultures, their languages mean something in tongues and in vibrations and sound waves. They have some kind of effect over the physical reality because of the way they say these words in tongues and the sounds of the vibration. English that we speak right now, that I'm speaking, is a made up language. It's fake as fuck. It's a dumbed down way to communicate, and you can tell because every other language, like I'm telling you, has Semitic meanings and has Semitic words that translate it. English, you cannot do that. Yeah. That's why they have to write acronyms to give a meaning. Just like when I tell you Torah, the Semitic meaning for Torah is to give instructions or to lead. The Bible, Bible, Bible is an acronym, basic instructions before leaving Earth. That's what Bible means. So I mean, you can basically translate most of these holy Bibles and their title to go back to something that tells you this is what you need to do. I'm leading you to what you need to do. I'm gonna tell you what you need to do. That's basically what the Bible is. It's a form of control.
Right. I mean, like you
It's
said,
especially the King James version, bro. It's so fraudulent.
Listen, there's a lot of proverbs and lessons to be learned from the Bible, but a lot of people don't do their research. Like you said, that there's those stories, like even the Genesis story, which is the first book in the Bible, comes from a way older civilization. You know what I'm saying? Like there's things to be learned from the Bible. I'm not saying it's all wrong, but yeah, the King James version.
Well, the thing is about Genesis is totally mistranslated. The Genesis is a story.
Lost in translation.
Genesis is a story about otherworldly beings, otherworldly deities coming down here and creating the earth, which is basically what's in the Sumerian tablets again. And you can tell because when you translate, actually before Hebrew there was Phoenician. That's what people spoke. Phoenician, right?
Yeah.
So these Phoenician people, basically that language subbed into merged into Hebrew, but in the translation it says El created the earth and created the heavens, and let's make them in our image, not my image. But El is what they gave us as a translation. That means God, but the old text doesn't say El, it says Elohim, which is God's with an S, plural, more than one.
Yeah.
So God's created the heaven and earth. Let's make them in our image. Yeah. Not only that, when Adam and Eve ended up giving birth to Cain and Abel and whatever, they were like the only ones on the fucking planet in the garden at the time, right? Cain kills Abel, God comes down, finds out God comes down, right? He comes down from heaven, which we already know. Scientifically, there's no fucking heaven out there. Maybe another dimension, but we can see there's other planets and other solar systems. There's no fucking heaven. Right. So God came down probably from another planet and seeing, what kind of crime I created you to be perfect, and you commit this crime. So he's gonna cast Cain out of the garden, right? This is all from Genesis, all from the Bible and shit.
Right.
He's gonna cast Cain out of the garden. So Cain he's fearful to leave the garden. He says, "I'll be killed. Though they will kill me out there." And if y'all the only ones on earth in the garden, how are you going to get killed out there, right? Not only that, God acknowledges him and marks him so he won't be touched, he won't be harmed. He said, I'll mark you so you won't be harmed when you go out there. Who the fuck is going to harm him, right? Now, this is who's going to harm him, because Eden is Atlantis, and these motherfuckers is a high fucking civilization that's been created by aliens, and you got these geeky motherfuckers working out there and shit, slaving and shit, and that's who's going to harm them because they're jealous. And not only that, when the Anunnaki, these tablets say when man was created, we wasn't created to procreate. We couldn't have kids. We couldn't have kids. And then the workload, they didn't want, so they wanted to make these basically clones. They wanted to make like these clones that could go out, do the work, and die. Right. That way they wouldn't have to fear of them becoming their own race and trying to rise up against them, right? But the workload grew, and they needed to reproduce them they need to re-engineer them to be able to produce and have kids. Now this is where the story of banishment and being kicked out of Eden came from, because they were reproducing at a crazy rate. And they were being kicked out of Eden, the Garden of Eden, their cities, which they were no longer protected. So now they're just running around out there doing whatever the fuck they want. But that's what gave rise to the stories of banishment and getting kicked out of the Garden of Eden, was the Anunnaki tablets. When they were procreating, they wasn't supposed to, and they were kicking people out and shit. Like, it's all translated like multiple times. And
so you subscribe with like we come from the Anunnaki, like that's how.
All right, now scientists are saying that Earth is not even from the Milky Way galaxy. That we ended up sliding into this galaxy somehow. Look that shit up, bro. This shit is wild, dog. It is wild, DM. And yeah, so now we like slid in from another close by Milky Way, and we used to surround like a couple red dwarfs or whatever, and there's a lot. If you can find a lot of scientists, a lot of astronauts and shit like that saying we might be, from another galaxy. We might be alien to this galaxy. Like our planet came. And I mean, there's an origin. You can trace back our DNA so far, but there's still a percentage that's unknown to Earth, that it's not traceable here on Earth. And it could have been meteors bringing water and whatever from hitting in. and you never fucking know. Just the most amazing thing about it is when you think about it, we come from stardust. We come from the universe. The same elements that make everything around you make up you.
Yeah, that's
and the point that you are part of the universe becoming conscious of itself and you know it, like, bro, that's wild.
That's wild.
That's wild.
Dumb wild. That was deep. Nah, I like that.
But yeah, these Sumerians, to give you some of the things, because we started going off on the Anunnaki and you get into that shit. But to give you some of the things that these Sumerians were credited for, when you walk outside and you walk down the street and you know buildings on each side of the street, city blocks. They created city blocks. They invented city planning structures. They invented laws. They invented a form of identifying each citizen. They invented money because, you know, with the money supply, especially the way the central banks are set up now, the money supply gives a small group of people to run the world. Gives them the power to say who eats, who dies, who lives, who doesn't. And if you don't follow that money structure, it's so they created all this shit. They created
So were the Sumerians the Atlanteans?
I mean, they could have been. That's I mean, none of that's like really provable. Like the shit that I'm saying now is basic, like it's basically factual. They did all the inventions. They invented basically agriculture. They invented domestication of cattle and cattle and lamb.
Like organized living.
They organized living. Yeah, that's why they're called the cradle of civilization.
You ever heard of the Olmecs?
Yeah, I have, but I haven't really read into it too much about it. But yeah. So they also created the wheel. They created the plow. They created sewer systems, plumbing, irrigation, levees, canals, the sailboat. These guys were the first people to domesticate onions, apples, wheat, bay, parsley, flax seeds. These guys, they had the kings were all like priestly kings, and they had patriotic people like senators and like for their each city and shit like.
So you feel these people came before the Egyptians?
They had the first form of right. Oh yeah, of course. They're kind of dated back older than the Egyptians. I mean, it depends, because once you start talking about the Egyptians, which is a whole nother episode, you got to get into the emerald tablets, and you got to get into the tablets of Thoth, and he supposedly wrote his own tablets 36,000 years ago. Right. So you start getting into that predates Sumerian, but that's not archaeological factual information and shit.
Fuck with archaeological.
Me either, but
I gotta keep it funky.
As far, I mean, I fuck with the emerald tablets, and I'm reading them right now. I'm not too far into them, but I'm reading a lot of shit.
This is my thought about like civilization. I think many times before, because they talk about this in mad different cultures, like the golden era, the golden age, the age of
bronze.
gods,
No, the Bronze Age.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, there was a reason for that too, and the golden age was us digging up gold for that fucking Anunnaki.
I don't mean literally go like.
No, there was literally those ages, like Bronze Age.
Yeah. No, I mean like at a time where men were living like gods, where we were smart, we advanced.
I think that's what the lost city of Atlantis was a consciously advanced civilization that was more woke than the rest of the people. And eventually, I think their downfall was just them losing consciousness for some reason, whether it was mating with Neanderthals or whatever. I don't know, but it was they fell from consciousness for sure.
For sure.
Our pineal glands are smaller. Fluoride turns your pineal gland into cement. Our shits are the size of a grape. Back then, they was the size. No, it was the size of a raisin. Back then, it was the size of a grape, like a big fat grape, like the pineal gland.
Dried out. Yeah. But this is what I think. You know what I'm saying? Who am I? But I think, like I said, we've reached like times where we couldn't fathom the things that we were capable of back in the day.
All right.
But I think that like some natural catastrophe happened over and over.
I think we had the technology that we have now. It was here before, and a natural catastrophe, and over hundreds and thousands of years of decaying, because this is not gonna last. This is not gonna last. Exactly, because it was in stone, just like the tablets. So that's why shit was in stone that lasts, but this shit that could have been here before ain't gonna last because it's not in stone.
So check this out. Like as far as the pyramids go, you said that's another episode, but as far as the pyramids go, they done like there's water erosion on the Sphinx and shit. All right, so for that to happen, there had to be.
That's because that's how they got the stone there, was floating it there. They made a man-made canal from the Jordan.
That's not how water erosion works.
I mean, they try to say it's over thousands of years and it's like beaten down like if it rained for 100 years on it or some crazy shit like that. But I mean, it was in water. There was water around that whole area. There was man-made canals and shit that Egypt had. Yeah, there was cities. They had water things running everywhere.
Egypt
so they
wasn't a desert.
There was there was water. They had water from the river. They made their own canal and had water. That's documented.
Yeah, okay.
But
no,
I don't know about the water erosion is.
Oh, so you said
the water erosion is
the
water erosion isn't facts as far as they don't know how it got there. It's debated on. Oh, they think it rained on it for so long. They think it used to be in water. Like
so they found out that around so they said if it was water erosion, it had to be from rain or not. I'll say the last ice age or the last time there was mad water in that area was.
They're trying to say that the pyramids are older than what they date back to, and they go back to 15,000 years old.
I feel that because there's pyramids all over the world.
Indonesia got pyramids that are 20,000 years old. They got that mountain that's leads up. It's a pyramid that man made, and it's like 20. It predates to at least 20,000 years old.
Bro. That's technology
but
that we can't do.
I'm not. I definitely don't think.
We can't do that right now.
I think Sumeria is definitely probably the cradle of civilization for sure. The cuneiform text, the language, the advancement on everything. It goes back. Definitely goes back to Sumerians. All the religions are based off of. Every religion around the world is basically based off of Sumerian texts and translated and slightly different. Basically, the King James version itself is a condensed version of the Sumerian epic of creation.
Come from Africa. That's what
I mean.
Sumeria ain't Africa.
That's not civilization. That's life. We're talking about civilized, the way we live. We didn't live this way in Africa. We wasn't
for sure.
No, we ran in herds and little packs, and it was, bro. When we were in Africa, we'd go around fucking all the different girls, and they weren't our kid. They wasn't my kid. They were the group's kids. Like it was not civilized at all.
It definitely was civilized.
At what point? That was after the Sumerians, though.
No, I think Egypt came way before.
So you think there's a worldwide cover up? Yeah. Now we're talking factual. Like we're not talking facts right now. So you think there's a worldwide cover up on the age of the pyramids?
I think it's not as simple as a world.
So why wouldn't they cover up Sumerians then?
What you mean?
Because look at the stories they tell. You can do research and tell that the Noah's Ark and all these other stories from religions come from Sumerian. So why not cover that up then?
The story of Jesus is the same as the story
of Thoth.
No,
there's a lot of things that Thoth said that Jesus ended up recreating.
I'm not here to argue about that. I'm just saying, from my understanding is we come from Africa.
Yes, but not civilization. Yes, no, civilized. We were not civilized in Africa the way we are not.
Yeah.
All right. In case you ain't understand me when I was saying it. Now, the way the streets are structured, the way we live, you can go out and walk down the street and buildings on each side. The way we live, that's Sumerian. That's not Africa, bro. We humans probably evolved Homo erectus. Yes, we already know Homo erectus came out of Africa. That's where the cradle of life, but not the cradle of civilization, bro.
I get what you're saying, but first of all, like, all right.
I'm trying to explain to you why they call Sumeria the cradle of civilization, because all this parallels that we still instruct in our society today come from there.
I don't subscribe to mainstream shit. Mainstream academia can suck on my nuts.
That's why this is not taught in mainstream academics. You got to do your own research on this shit. And I read the 7 Tablets of Creation. I read the Enuma Elish. I read all of that, and it doesn't.
Sumeria is definitely old and definitely advanced and is a definitely ancient civilization.
So why is there no writing before that? If Egypt is so advanced, how come they're still doing hieroglyphs and shit? 3,000 years after Sumerian invented writing.
Hieroglyphs is a form. Wait, how come what?
It is. I'm just saying, but they invented language and writing 3,000 years before the Egyptians. So why are they still writing in hieroglyphs?
I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe that the.
So you don't believe none of that?
I don't subscribe that the pyramids are only 6,000 years old or 4,000.
Yeah, but all right. So what you're missing out is they could be 50,000 years old. But those engravings are not 50,000 years old.
Yeah, they are.
Those engravings are maybe 2,000-3,000 years old. They've been manipulated. These pyramids, the Sphinx, they've been manipulated. They've been reconstructed, and they've been worked on time and time again, over and over again by different civilizations.
I don't care about the hieroglyphics.
I'm just saying. All right, at the end of the day, they could be 50,000 years old, but that don't mean they had writing 50,000 years ago. That's what you're not understanding. You're missing the point of cradle of civilization, meaning everything that we still do parallels everything Sumer did, not everything Egypt did.
Right. But
they built pyramids and did hieroglyphs. They didn't have everything Sumer did. It's not written in their documents.
Nah, but I mean like a basic, at least blueprint. Somebody had to draw that shit out, you know?
I mean, I'm not saying there's nothing drawn out. Of course, there's structure when you got kings and queens and pharaohs and shit like that. Yeah. But it was not on the level of Sumeria, bro.
Just like to get them materials.
I mean, first of all, Sumeria came from Turkey. Because if you go to Göbekli Tepe, there's the same type of writings and engravings there that you can find a bunch of similar and parallels to Sumerian, not to Egypt, to Sumerian.
Yeah.
Now, and you can tell if you go take any ancient tribe in Egypt right now, and you can translate their language from Sumeria, proving that it came from Sumeria, bro. These are documented facts, dog. It's not an argument. It's not like conspiracy just because you don't want to believe it. It's true. These language. If you take the word tool, take any African tribe, and you take oldest African tribe you can find, and you take the word tool.
Comes from Sumer?
Yes.
No.
Where does it come from?
Africa, nigga.
How when they're not the first language recorded?
Listen,
bro, you're disrespecting thousands of scholars that made their career on factual information.
Fuck those scholars.
Factual information. He acting like Eddie Bravo right now.
Yeah.
He believe in flat Earth and dinosaurs never existed too.
No, they
but
didn't.
Nah, it's not that.
No,
every language that's ever, even Egyptian, every language that's ever been translated came from Babylonian, Akkadian, Sumerian, all the way down.
My research, like you. Okay, so you're telling me about Egypt. First of all, Egypt is a Greek name that the Greeks gave, and that's a European name. The African name for Egypt is Kemet. All right, but what I'm saying, so
and they used to be called that. You're talking like emerald tablets and shit.
Sure, but what I'm saying is I don't subscribe to that. I'm sorry. That's cool. I'm not saying that you're.
So right, you don't believe professionals and scholars
no, because if you understand how to
we're talking about the 2% that are literally trying to give us the truth out of the 98 that's lying to us. This is what they're telling us, and you don't believe them either.
As far as
but you also don't have any facts to base your beliefs off of either. I mean,
but you're going off of Zechariah, and Zechariah.
I'm definitely not going off Zechariah. When I'm talking that's yes. And when I was telling the story of Anunnaki, I was talking about Zechariah, and I said I was quoting Zechariah. But when we start talking about Sumer and factual shit, the cradle of civilization and things that they started and their language, bro, every language could be traced back to them. I'm not fucking lying to you. Every language could be traced back. Every language has common heritage. Every language has common parallels that come from a different language from before. Yes, they do, and I'm telling you,
Mayans do too.
All of them, bro. Maybe not in like what do you call it? Indianist.
Every language.
Nah. Matter of fact, yeah, Mayans too. Because the Spaniards, because
it's a geological thing. It's the same. There's people all over the place.
We're not talking about indigenous or whatever it's called, tribes and shit like that roamed the Amazon and shit. They probably maybe they did have a language. Who knows how long ago they had a language?
Like, it's kind of the same concept.
What is
like the whole where the shit came from and who was.
It's not the same concept because once you have writing, you can document something. Once you start writing, you can document something. And yeah, there's cave paintings going back 50,000 years old, and some of them got fucking alien fucking ships above the sky, like shit hovering above the ground.
Does Göbekli Tepe have writing, or is
it does? It does. It haven't.
Göbekli Tepe
It haven't great. It is older than Sumer.
So
it doesn't have writing. It has like I never said writing in the first place. I said encryptions. It has carvings and shit like that are similar that you can find in Turkey and Turkey religions and shit like that too.
Yeah,
and that's the oldest thing so far. That hey, I hope the fucking pyramids are 50,000 years old. But I know what we got from what they give us. That's I mean, even not putting the age of the pyramids aside, we know where language came from. And we can trace it back to the very beginning, and we can find common roots in almost every ancient language of how it's subsplitted from that first language. I'm not fucking lying to you, bro. I wouldn't lie to anybody. That's not the point. I can't give these people.
And I can't prove to you that you're wrong.
My thing is to give them 60% of the facts and let them look up the other 40% themselves. You know, do the research. Because I can't give it to all of them anyways because I don't know all of it. I'm a independent researcher that does my own shit. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to give them facts when I do each show. Every research I do is based off facts. I'll go into my ideas and what I think, you know, and shit like that happened. But I gotta keep it real with them from the beginning.
Well, there's no reason to argue of who fucking did it first. I'm just saying I don't subscribe to that. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm right, you're right.
I mean, I'm saying when I give them 60% of the information, I want them to research the other 40. They're not gonna be able to find whatever you're saying. They're gonna be able to find what I'm saying is what I'm saying. Okay. But I mean, they're gonna research and it's gonna be validated. And they're gonna be like, all right, he is telling some truth. He does, you know, as you gotta look it up and
that's amazing.
It's real information, but.
Word. But the shit that blows my mind is the technology that they were capable of. Like we talked about that mother stone, that megalithic stone, the temples that they built at the time that they were doing it. That's the shit that blows my mind. That, you know, not that they were, even if they started laws and writing and all that
if you look at the older Sumerian tablets and temples, they were the first people to ever make a temple. The first civilization to ever make a temple. And if you look at that older shit, bro, they were super advanced. You wouldn't even look at the pictures today of some of their temples that are still perfectly preserved. You wouldn't even think it was made 7,000 years ago, bro, or 6,000 years ago. I'm not lying to you. It's fucking ridiculous, bro. It's crazy.
So like you touched on earlier, where the fuck did that come from? How they just
I mean, that's the whole thing is. They started in, I mean, Sumer was in between the Tigris and the Euphrates River. It was a valley. I mean, it's in the fucking desert, and it's crazy to even sustain life there. But supposedly, that Euphrates River wasn't there, and these, according to Zechariah Sitchin, these Anunnaki, you know, kind of filled it and made it habitable and livable. I mean, that's where we got the geological jump from in culture and agriculture and fucking domestication and fucking laws and everything. We were taught these ways by the Anunnaki, which, I mean, humans could have developed them by themselves over the years and finally was able to write it down and was like, all right, let's write this shit down now that we can. We developed cuneiform, if y'all don't know, is symbols. And there's symbols that make sounds, and once you put the symbols together, those sounds form words, and that's how they spoke on cuneiform. And not everybody could write in cuneiform. They had special scribes that fucking went to school, like, that studied and taught how to do this shit. So that's why I believe most of these tablets, it's not like we were just sitting down writing whatever we wanted to. Like, this is, people had to have a skill to do this. Like, they had to be in a position to do that. And it's not like, oh, everyday person is just going to do that. So it's like, I think it's real facts and real data.
So like on some of these tablets, they have, like, you know, the regular man, and then you have these Anunnaki beings where they're like 12 to 15 feet tall. You think they were like 12?
I mean, I think they probably were, because in the book of Genesis, they talk about the Nephilim. You want to be Christian? You want to live in a Christian nation? I'm talking about to my viewers. You want to be Christian? You want to live in a Christian nation? All right. Well, they talk about the Nephilim being giants and fallen angels. Yeah. And they also talk about the fallen angels in the book of Enoch. You know, you want to know why the book of Enoch is apocryphy text? That it's no longer, it's out of the Old Testament. It's no longer the New Testament, because they speak about aliens. They speak about otherworldly beings coming down to Earth, taking Enoch away to see other planets. Right. And there was people on these other planets, and there was things going on in these other planets. But not only that, there is one Bible on this planet today that still has the book of Enoch to give it validation. You think I'm bullshitting? The Ethiopian Bible still has the Book of Enoch.
Where that's at?
Ethiopian Bible still has the Book of Enoch.
Yeah.
And
read.
and like you wanna talk about Jesus.
No.
Jesus is only a name that's been around for 400 years.
Speak on it, brother.
Jesus Christ is a fabricated, made up name. It's a made up concept to control and run people. And there was no Jesus in the Old Testament.
There was no letter J before, I think. There was a Yeshua. There was a Yeshua. Yeshua ben Yosef.
And Yeshua is Hebrew, and when you translate it to English, it means Joshua. So where did Christ come? That also came from the Greeks. Christ came from the Greeks, because just like Zeus and all their other gods, their names end in US.
Right.
Zeus, Jesus, that's just a Greek thing. And I think Greek Messiah in Greek means Messiah, or Christ in Greek means Messiah, or some shit like that. I mean,
I think Christ.
So the image of Christ is from Caesar Borgia.
Exactly.
The image of Christ that we know
Common
today, the
sense.
blonde hair, the blue eyes, the straight hair, that comes from Caesar Borgia. Right. Caesar Borgia was I think Pope Fifth, the son of Pope Fifth.
Right.
He actually killed his brother to take his brother's military status.
Yep.
Because he was like some kind of preacher or something in the Catholic Church. And Caesar Borgia, they contracted Leonardo da Vinci to repaint the liking of Jesus in Caesar Borgia's image.
Right.
And that because Jesus' image wasn't popular in Europe at the time because he was a brown-skinned man.
Damn right, with a fro, my niggas.
Or dreadlocks.
Yeah,
maybe Bob Marley. Maybe Bob Marley reincarnated. But yeah, so I mean that's Caesar Borgia, Borgia. Look that shit up.
Right.
Do your research on him, and fuck that guy and his family. And yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about Jesus in the Apocrypha text, there's no Jesus. There's a Joshua, and Joshua is from a virgin birth. And Joshua's Mary. His mom Mary's mom. So Joshua's grandma was also a virgin birth. This is in the Book of Mary. You have the Book of Adam and Eve 1 and 2. You got the Book of Judith. You got the Book of Judas. You got Solomon. You got all these Apocrypha texts that were in the Old Testament that were left out of the New Testament. And I'm looking up the council right now. I'm doing research on them. I don't know a lot about the council that actually handpicked the books to be in the Bible. The council of I forgot what they're called, but I'm doing research on these fucks right now, and I'm into all that shit. So I talk factual shit, and people don't like it because it offends their religion. Oh, don't tell me Jesus ain't real. All right, when I drop my documentary on how Jesus ain't real, I don't want nobody to be mad. I don't want nobody to be mad.
Don't do that.
I'm gonna go argue with preachers all over the city in their church. Let me sit there and argue with you about how your texts are wrong. How about your Book of Genesis talks about otherworldly beings coming down here, just like the Sumerian texts do. Just like, all right, here's something. There's about 900 religions on Earth. 900 religions on Earth.
It's gotta be more than that.
No, 900 religions. Nah.
Oh yeah.
Look it up.
Yeah,
Look it up.
it's
Look it up,
2019,
bro. Stop talking and look it
It's
up.
like a million.
All
All right, I'll look it up. I'll look
like
it up
a
right
million
now.
countries in Africa.
Nah, bro. Y'all sleep. It might be 780 something.
4,200.
What?
Religions?
There's an estimated
No,
4,200. I told you.
They're working tax.
2019, bro.
All right, so
Shit.
all right. Even that being said,
Next year,
4,000 religions, 4,000
times
different
30.
religions.
30,000.
But yeah, you're talking about. All right, I'm talking about real religions, established religions that go back. He's talking about Book of Mormon, Scientology, all
I'm
that.
not talking about.
No, that's
I'm
what they're talking
what
about.
the
Yeah,
internet just
man, he
reads.
Googled and he's taking
That's it.
Wikipedia for his word. You got to
That's it.
check multiple sources.
Well, you asked me to look
You got to
it up.
check .orgs though, because .orgs tell you the truth. .coms will lie to you because they make money and shit.
I'm biased,
So,
by the way.
but either way, at the end of the day,
I have to
established ancient religions that go back that have credibility. There's about 800 of them. Out of those 800, about 90% of them have a story about a flood. Out of those 90%, 70% speak about a family that was told about the flood ahead of time and told to build an ark. Out of that, another 65% sent birds out. Out of that, another 62% came back with birds with an olive branch and showed them where the mountain was and shit like that. So that's almost over 60% of all religions in the world have this story of Noah,
So you think
which come
Noah-
from the Sumerians.
So you think Noah was real?
No, first of all, his name wasn't Noah. It was Zayasudra.
Do you believe
Zayasudra was the original Noah.
So
Noah.
there was a nigga sitting in front of a boat like, all right, dogs, you go.
Yeah.
1, 2, okay.
No, I don't think that. No. You're talking about the whole story. The person, there was a real person for sure, Zayasudra.
That's
But the
fake.
whole story and details, that's different. I don't think everything happened like that.
You
As
think
far
there
as
was a
in,
flood. I agree with you on the flood.
yeah, there was a flood. There was, and it could have been a. All right, see, in these Sumerian tablets, these Anunnaki, they're advanced, and they knew the poles were going to shift, and every 100,000 years our poles do shift, and they knew it was going to cause catastrophic, shit on Earth, and it was natural occurrence. It wasn't something that they caused, and that's when I told you that's when everybody was they were breeding at a crazy rate. Everybody was banished from their city, from the safety. Humans were going wild. Like, what was it? Enlil wanted to kill everybody. He knew about the oncoming catastrophe. He didn't want to save nobody. Enlil was the one that or Enki was the one that went out and told Zayasudra about the flood and is coming and build an ark and do this, and that. What, did they have every animal? Nah, I doubt that. Animals. The thing is, there's a thing called collective consciousness. We're all connected, right? No matter what, even galaxies. They just sent back a picture of Hubble from the Hubble telescope. You've probably seen it, a big picture with all these galaxies in the background, 1 billion light years away, just spread out, the big, all right. And they did that same image under like a different type of radar, like an energy image, and it showed everything out there connected. Like, it was wild, bro. Everything, like, it was a different image, like rendered the way they rendered it. And literally everything out there was connected. So I believe in collective consciousness. I believe it's a real thing, and I believe everybody here is connected, and with nature we're connected, and with the animals we're connected.
Absolutely.
And I think the Anunnaki knew that, and I think they used it for their advantage. And I forgot where the fuck I was going. That plane distracted me.
It's almost like the perfect sound effect, though, bro. Like, it's just.
But what were you asked something? What did you ask?
I don't remember. What did I ask?
Oh, you asked if Noah was real and
No,
the
do
flood.
you believe?
But yeah.
No, that's what it was.
Yeah, nah.
Do you
I
believe?
don't believe. Nah, I believe that Noah, the story of Noah from the King James version of the Bible, in fact did come from the Epic of Gilgamesh. And that was the earliest recording of the story of that flood. And I think it was the Anunnaki, like the poles were shifting. So they're like, all right, Enki hated us, Enlil hated us, Enki created us, he loved us, he wanted to save us. That's why he told Zayasudra to build a boat so you can live. He took seeds and shit like that for farming and agriculture for afterwards, but I don't think he took animals and shit like that. I think life is going to survive no matter what. And that's what happened. Life survived. And collective consciousness, this is what I was getting back to. So if you ever see, even in modern days, when you see a tsunami, you automatically, that's why these people on these indigenous people on these islands, you know how they know about tsunamis?
Talk to me.
Because they see animals running away, going up high. That's because collectively we're conscious, and the animals know what's about to happen, so they run ahead of time. And that's how these people outrun this shit. These indigenous people, they follow the animals because they've been following the animals since Africa and shit. That's what led them out from the trees and through plains, was following animals and shit. And that's basically almost proven. But yeah, the closest thing to the truth that we got, which is logic. But yeah, so
like I said, touching on that flood theory, I definitely think flood happened. But
provable, everything's underwater now.
Sure.
Some ice caps melted.
Sure. But
hurricane.
I like to get my
Florida.
info. I mean, YouTube is a great source, encyclopedias are good, books are great. But my ancient ancestors tell me what's shut, and they spoke on many
Tell us, I want to hear this.
deluges,
The Great Deluge, which
Sure.
means the Great Flood.
That
For
doesn't
people
mean
that don't know,
it's not just a flood. It's
a new
national
beginning,
catastrophe,
overcoming.
sure.
It's a bunch of shit.
Yeah, like you get indigenous culture.
But if you interpret deluge to deluge something to dilute something, like
water,
I mean,
sure, yeah, sure.
It still have common parallels when like all the language.
Sure. But like a lot of indigenous cultures and other cultures speak about like the world ending
multiple times.
not just
I
by
mean,
flood.
Mostly
by other-
Indians and Mayans and Aztec and stuff like that.
Okay.
You don't find it in Sumerian. You find the creations, and you don't find it in Egyptian. But it's
sure,
shit,
yeah,
though.
you
That's
do. You
desert
find it
shit.
in Nordic culture, with Thor and Ragnarok and shit like that.
but that's
Ooh,
that's mythological. That's
to
not.
you, my nigga.
It's literally.
I mean, some of that
up,
shit.
dude. Like,
If
it
then
says
you have
right
to
here.
believe in aliens, because if it ain't
I do
mythological,
believe in
it's
aliens.
aliens, and that's all there is to
I do
explain
believe in
it. So
aliens.
everything about Thoth and all that shit is aliens. Then there's no way other
No,
to explain
Thoth-
it. If it ain't mythological, it's aliens, bro.
No, that's
Yes.
why I told you. I disagree. I think us.
Explain.
I think people we see right now.
You think we have powers?
Yeah.
What
nigga,
kind?
yeah,
What kind of
listen
power?
to
Like
me.
Superman?
All
Let's
of them,
go,
nigga.
Superman,
Listen to
Superman or Batman type
Hey.
powers?
All of them, nigga.
Superman or Batman
You're
though,
not
because
listening.
Batman's
Batman
like
had
money
brains.
powers.
Nah,
Batman
Batman
is
had
brains
brains.
and money.
Batman
Superman
was
is
a
like
G.
alien power.
Super
Listen to
intuitive,
me.
man. That dude-
Escúchame. I don't know what that means in Spanish.
What? Why'd you say it? 'Cause you
mean-
said it perfect.
all right,
It means listen.
Escúchame.
Escúchame, pinche way.
Yeah. First of all, we're out of touch with nature. Okay, you and I, we think we're the pinnacle.
Nah,
of
we know
creation.
we're out of. Nobody in this room thinks
Alright.
otherwise. We're
Okay.
all woke in here, and we know what's
Okay,
going
sure.
on.
So
We know
if
we're out of tone with nature. I'm the one
Alright.
who talk about collective consciousness
Okay,
here.
good
You even
job.
know what that is?
No, sir. Tell me about the Akashic records.
I'm gonna need you.
Holla at me.
Collective consciousness.
I just
You know,
hit you with something. I said
learn-
Akashic records, bro. You know what that is?
Akashic records? Nah,
Akashic
I didn't go.
records.
I don't go into everything. I'm still learning. I'm only
Alright,
talking
that's-
about. I'm only talking about the subject I'm
That's
supposed to be
the s-
talking about
Okay,
today.
that's the same thing you just said. Collective consciousness. It's
Akashic.
all the Akashic records.
What does Akashic mean? What language is that?
It comes from like more of the it's close to Sumer, but the close like ancient Indian cultures. And
That's
shit.
even old. You know, that's older than Egyptian culture.
What's that?
Indian.
Okay, I'm not doubting
You know, the Torah and
I
shit
will
like that.
take it
That
for
shit's
you.
old as fuck, bro.
Sure.
And they have the same stories that Sumerian has that share with the
Bro,
with
that's
the,
my
with the
thing.
pagan
Like,
gods.
I'm looking at this cradle of civilization thing right here, and it's like, I'm just like, yo, that's literally what the fuck I was saying, you know?
Word.
It just says current thinking is that there was no single cradle, but several civilizations
Talk
that
to 'em, brother.
developed independently.
Yeah,
of
that's
which the near
Yeah.
Eastern
Yeah.
Neolithics,
Mhm.
Mesopotamia,
Mesopotamia.
and Egypt were the first. That was it, dude.
yeah,
So it's like, it's
Mesopotamia.
literally
that
all
means
around
they
the globe.
developed. That's what I already told y'all. I already told y'all there was different cities
I'm
in
not saying
Mesopotamia, and I
you're
already
wrong.
named
No
them
circles,
Akkadian,
it's no
Akkadian,
one.
the Babylonians. All those were Mesopotamian cities, and all those. And I'll
True
explain
that,
it
true that.
again. All those cultures more merged after they took over one land, and that
Right.
became their culture. And they just switched up names in the poems and names in the
Okay.
to whatever fit their king or their ruler at the time, bro. This is facts. This is how the shit was written out.
Well, yeah,
this is
but
the way
like-
they did it. It's all researchable.
Well, yeah, what I want to learn is like what all their original, because like it's the same shit, but again, like it
So
was,
you
like,
got to go to,
all
I
over
think
the
it's
spot, you know?
ucla.com, get on their virtual translator and translate those tablets yourself. They're out there. And you can look up your own meaning for it. You can, all right? So what you can do is you can look up the way it was written in this language, right? Whatever language it was translated. Then go back one step further, and what language was it translated before that? Look at the translations. Go back,
Yeah.
look at those translations, and you'll start to see different meanings for each one. They're very similar, but and then when you start looking at it overall, they can mean, like, we use the same word in different ways, right?
Yeah.
We can use one word in the English language in multiple ways, slang, different ways, everything. We can use depending on what word it is. And there's multiple words, like
It's
two
just generations
could be a
of,
number,
like,
two, or it could be
communication.
two, me too, or also, like, bro, it's different
Think
ways. It's
about
like
it,
three different ways of
kids.
writing two.
Think about
TWO,
kids,
TO, and TOO. So
motherfuckers.
they're-
You know? And then that's it. They be just it's it. It's the you know how they always say the kids are the future. You know what I mean? Think about it. That's just constant, generations
All right,
of
so-
like parenting and
so
shit.
collective
like,
consciousness, right?
kids,
Is the idea
literally.
that we're all connected? Have you heard the research on it? Then you seen the experiments they done on it since you know.
No, what's the reason?
All right. So I forgot the island, but you can look it up. There's a little island off the coast of Japan where they had monkeys.
kids.
They had monkeys in
Not
their
with
they had
kids.
monkeys in their lab or their jungle. They had a whole
And
inhabitant
kids.
for monkeys, like that was set up for monkeys with water, streams, everything
Yeah.
going on.
My hero
So they were
Academia.
trying to watch the interaction of these monkeys and try to write shit
Yeah.
down and study them. And they noted, and every time the monkeys did something good, they would give them a treat. That's how you train dogs. My dog does something good, I give it a treat so it knows it's doing the right thing. So they would give monkeys these sweet potatoes, and they would just throw them into the enclosure. They'd drop into the sand. The monkeys would eat them, but they're like choking and spitting because of the sand. One of the monkeys started rinsing the sweet potato off in the water that was in the enclosure, and it was a younger monkey, and it showed the older monkeys how to do it. Once the older monkey started doing it, all the other monkeys in the habitat started doing it. And once it became like maximum effort, like muscle memory, like they did it every time they got it because this is what we do now. They started observing monkeys on nearby islands washing their food in streams. This collective consciousness. Now, so everything they do on monkeys, of course, they try on humans. So they went in I think it was London, went on TV. And they showed a collage, a picture of a human face. But inside that picture was 100 other faces that made up that picture. They had like 20, 30 guests on there. And they said, how many faces do you see? There's 100 in there. They said, nobody said more than 7. It was in between 5 and 7. All 20 guests said somewhere in between 5 and 7. So they went to Britain. They aired this on TV, showed everybody where this was back in the day, like the 40s. There was no, you can't communicate across like that. And this is, they showed that image in Britain and showed everybody where the 100 faces were. Then they went back to fucking England or whatever and showed everybody again, and everybody started guessing more faces because collectively we knew there was more because they showed us or some part of us over there. Yeah, they did that. So that's kind of like collective consciousness. They did that
study with kids in Japan with flashcards and shit. Like they would show one group of kids flashcards and an entirely different group would guess the flashcards that they showed. Yeah.
What do you think Hitler was trying to do? He was harming one twin, setting his arm on fire to see if the other twin would feel it.
I learned about that shit through my ancestors. Again, that's the niggas that I listen to the most. But yeah, they say that we're all.
Who's your ancestors? Do you even know?
Yeah, nigga.
You did Ancestry.com?
Nah.
So how do you know?
I did.
Bitch, because I'm an indigenous person. I'm people. Well,
what if most of your genes are from Europe? You don't even know.
I do know. I got some Spaniard in me.
I'm sure you do, but I'm just saying if you never did the Ancestry.com.
Well, my last name.
Or if you don't. I'm not even Ancestry, but any of them.
Word.
That shit was cool.
Yeah, man. But last names is something else. That's a whole nother topic to talk about names.
I don't know exactly what fucking tribe they come from.
Well, it's just cool looking at for me,
location, but I know that my ancestors are the original people of this earth.
And of course, I think all of ours are. Everyone in this room's ancestors are original people from this earth. We all came from here. Unless, I mean, there is a theory that we're all aliens. Because your back hurts, don't it, sometimes? Everybody's back hurts. We wasn't evolved for this gravity pull, or else our backs wouldn't hurt the way they do. We wasn't evolved for this sun, or else we wouldn't fucking burn the way we burn. Right? We wasn't evolved. We were evolved for, I think, like a 28-hour day or some shit. Like, I read this whole fucking thing. It was like, it started tackling, like, facts like that, like skin burning and shit like that. Like, bro, and it's just, like, it's one of those things you go down that rabbit hole and start researching shit.
Everything's a fucking rabbit hole once you research.
Think about this shit.
Everything is a rabbit hole. You lose your mind looking up shit. But that's the best part. Don't agree with. I'm not saying you're wrong and I'm right, or I'm right and you're wrong, or whatever. Don't agree with nothing nobody says. Do your own research. Come to your own conclusion.
Yeah, wake up.
Find your own truth.
Woke.
That's the main.
Open that third eye. This is our third eye opening journey right here. And that's all we try to do.
Like, just individually have fun. Because, like, at the end of the day, it means
I mean,
I
talk all facts, and then I'll give them what I think is going on, like my theory or my fact. My idea, just like yours, my idea doesn't always add up with the facts either, or what I think doesn't always add up with the facts either. But at the same time, I got to give them the facts, and then I tell them what I think. That's the thing. That's the good thing about having a platform to talk. You can tell them what's really out there, and then you can tell them what you think, and they can say, I think you might be right too. And they might put their own idea with it and start thinking something else and research it. So it's all about getting the information to people, factual information to people, and getting them to look it up and, coming up with. It's about waking up. It's not about listening to what everybody else says, Absolutely. So it's about learning, researching, coming up with your own shit, and just staying the fuck woke at the end of the day. Oh, show.
That's real though.
But yeah, the Sumerians, they were credited for just about basically everything You know, they're left out of our history. They're left out of a lot of shit. And that's because they talked about the Anunnaki. They talked about the Big Bang Theory before science knew it was the Big Bang. They talk about the Noah's Flood before Christianity knew it was the Noah's Flood or labeled it the Noah's Flood. And they just had a way higher understanding about everything that was going on. Consciously, they were probably seeing more dimensions than we are because they were more consciously woke. Who knows? Maybe when your conscious level rise, you see in other dimensions and you see things that's not physically in front of you.
I subscribe with that.
Instinct.
It's like some Matrix. You know, the word Matrix is in the Bible. It's in ancient texts. It's literally the word Matrix. So
I subscribe with that.
Somebody I'd like maybe knock the fuck out. Like, yo, I seen some shit.
Saw it.
I seen it.
I saw it.
I seen it. It's out there.
But yeah, man.
And then just told people and then like jotted it down like, yo, that's it. I got knocked the fuck out, bro.
So like when you start
possibilities, it could be anything really.
When you start talking about these Sumerian laws, bro, I'm talking about detailed laws on slavery, on working, on if somebody's property. Their laws were so detailed that you will be liable if I was doing work on your property and the work wasn't good. It's my fault. Like, bro. Like, that's super civilized. They didn't have that shit more further back. It's not like that. Not to that point. Of course, there was always some kind of togetherness, some kind of socialness and shit like that, but not like, and that came out of nowhere. The point is that that way of living came out of nowhere. On a geographical time frame, you're talking about a million years for us to advance, and then basically in a blink of an eye overnight, we advanced to all that. It had to. That's knowledge that had to be given to us. I'm talking about, bro. The Sumerians mastered the lunar calendar. That's how we got a lunar calendar today, because Sumerians. They came up with the circumference 300 degrees in a circle, 360 degrees in a circle. That's the Sumerian invention. 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day. That's Sumerian. That predates the Mayan by like 4,000-5,000 years.
All right, but if the
they were masters in trigonometry. We're talking about the Sumerians. That's who we've been talking about. This bitch said who. They're masters of trigonometry, like they're masters of geometry and shit.
Say like
follow me then.
Way one corner of the earth, and then you got the Mayans. And
I admit there's pyramids everywhere. There's not in Sumer though.
Yeah, they have temples there.
Not pyramids.
It's pyramidal.
There's no pyramids there.
It doesn't have a triangle point.
Now,
like
Eridu, Earth Station 1, Eridu, the first civilization in Sumer, Eridu, which was a kingship. That's what these texts say. Fuck the Anunnaki and what Zechariah Sitchin says. These are what the texts say. When a kingship descended from the heavens, it was in Eridu. It was in Earth Station 1. That's where they established everything, and that's where they were running operations out of. It was a ship that landed. And that's in the Sumerian text. That's fuck Zechariah Sitchin and his translation. He didn't even translate. He used other people's translation and went back language per language, like I was just telling you, and checked all these languages and was like, all right, this is what this shit really means. Like God in the Bible means Elohim, mean gods, more than one. It says it throughout the whole fucking Bible. They talk about the Nephilim. They talk about the giants, the Anunnaki offspring with the humans. They talk about the Nephilim in the Bible and shit like that. They talk about it in the book of Enoch. That's why all these Apocryphy texts was missing, because it fills in where Joshua went. Joshua wasn't missing. Jesus wasn't missing from 12 to 33, and he popped back on the scene. That's not what the fuck happened. This dude went to fucking Egypt, and he was studying. This dude went to India. This dude went to India. This was way after the Sumer civilization was destroyed at that time. This dude went to India, and he was learning healing with his hands. Whether it was like acupuncture healing or massage healing, he was learning healing with his hands. He went to like Quebec with the monks, and he was fucking teaching reincarnation. This is all in the Apocryphy text that was left out of the New Testament. And if you read them, you can fucking see all that shit. You can see all the parallels. There was never no Jesus Christ. He's a fucking fictional cartoon character. And he comes from Joshua. And then Joshua, Joshua wasn't the son of Joseph. Joshua was a basically born from, what do they call it? No father, no nothing. He was
Hood nigga.
A miracle baby. Who said a miracle baby? He was a virgin birth, is what I meant to say. He was a virgin birth. His grandmother was a virgin birth. Joshua, Jesus had kids. He had a wife. He had kids. They ended up being the bloodline that turned into the Merovingians, where it's some old ass English European bloodline, the Merovingians, which ends up like ruling most of the kings and shit that's over there now and shit. Like, look this shit up, bro. The Merovingians, they tie into that Anunnaki. They had that fucking blood out of copper. Like our blood is iron based. Theirs was copper based. So, and their land was copper based, making like everything appear blue, like the waters or whatever. Their blood was blue. Like ours is red because it's iron based. And man, I'm telling you, this shit correlates like a motherfucker, bro.
Man. Word. Well, look it up, guys.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Do the research and fuck Jesus. Every time y'all send a prayer to Jesus, every time y'all give that energy out, it's going to nowhere. Nobody, you got strippers praying to Jesus like, thank God I made a bag last night. Bitch, strippers ain't helping niggas throw ones at you or helping dudes throw ones at you or nothing like that. They ain't helping. God ain't there.
God is
How
great.
come when you get in a car accident, somebody else dies but you live? That ain't God, bro. That ain't God. God don't work like that. If you read the shit, you know God don't work like that. It ain't none of that. It ain't accident. It ain't chance. It ain't none of that. It was his time. Bullshit, bro. That's not how the shit works. God's giving you $1 billion, but you're starving. That's not God. None of this shit is God. So at the end of the day, religion is man-made. It's made to control you. It's made to keep you in line, do what they want you to do. Keep you in fear of of internal damnation. You know, the fucking rapture is not even real. That was added into the King James version. The rapture was a cliff note that was added, and you can look up the dude that wrote it, and that was a cliff note that was added.
A lot of shit is added.
And yeah, so the it's a cliff note.
You know what fucks me up about heaven, right? I'm thinking about this. Like, all right, so when you die, and if you make it to heaven, can you think about all the people that's gonna be there?
There's no heaven, bro.
I'm just
who makes the clothes? If there's heaven, that means we got to have clothes. We weren't. So who's making the clothes? Is there slaves in heaven?
Sure,
all right, so there's got to be food. So who's cooking the food? Are there cooks? Sure. Are they slaves in heaven? Bro, heaven is another place. Heaven is another earth. It's another realm or another dimension. Bro. It's not what you think. There's no hell underneath us. There's no hell. There's no hell underneath. I think we live in hell. There ain't nothing hell could show us that ain't here on earth. There is nothing. I'll repeat that for y'all. There is nothing that hell can show us that isn't here on earth. Yeah, it ain't nothing earth been through that what you gonna suffer in hell being burned. That's here.
I didn't mean real heaven. I meant like the concept of
that's
heaven,
another
like,
planet. It's another realm or another dimension. When they say heaven,
I'm
you don't agree with at least one of them?
Nah.
What you agree with when they say the heaven?
I don't think you go to a heaven when you die.
So you think they're talking about another planet?
That's what I'm saying. When I try to think of what they talk about.
Listen, there's not so many texts in the Bible where they talking about heaven as you got to go there when you die. That's only in certain texts. Most of the time they talk about heaven, they talk about beings coming from the heavens. So when you look at it as them talking about beings coming from heaven, like if you don't believe there's a real heaven, then where the fuck they coming from? Another planet, like another realm? Are they energy? You don't
heaven
believe in none of that?
We made up like heaven. They wasn't calling heaven. It wasn't calling it heaven back in the day.
There's other, you can filter it back to other words, and you can find Semitic leanings for it. It's not lost in translation. You can trace heaven back to what it really means in probably Kinua form.
So when they were saying like gods came from the heavens, they didn't have the word outer space or outer stratosphere.
Nah, they had
so the
from
heavens,
above.
Oh sure,
something like that. Right. What else would they say?
I'm just saying they didn't.
It's got to be something.
In translation. That's what I'm saying. They didn't.
That's why, like I said again, I encourage you to go back and look through each language translation. That's the way you're gonna get the best understanding for yourself for it.
I don't subscribe to when I die, my soul goes to a cloud in the
That's
sky.
Christian. Christian is a fake, made up religion. Nobody who is really Christian nowadays. If you're Christian, you're a fucking kook.
That's not nice.
Heaven's a Christian thing for the most part.
So I'm asking you, what's heaven?
Heaven is glorified by, to me, my version of what's heaven.
Sure.
There's no heaven.
Okay,
there's no
I
hell.
agree with you on that.
There's no. All right.
So what are we arguing about?
We're not arguing. This is what's going on. I believe we are visitors to this time, to this place and to this era. We are not permanent. We do not last on earth. We live and we die. So we're visiting. And I believe our purpose here while we're visiting is to learn, is to observe, is to grow, is to become more consciously aware. And then we evolve. We evolve to the next part of our journey because we're energy first and we're matter second. And energy, the galaxy doesn't waste energy. Never. So no matter what, we're going to be transformed into something else.
So I'm agreeing with you. Can I tell you what I believe?
That's what it is right now. That's all I know, and that's all I can go off of. That's my personal philosophies and beliefs.
All right. So what's your personal?
I agree with you. A lot of that shit,
it's logical. That's what it comes from a logical standpoint.
But I think we're spiritual beings.
For sure.
Okay, that comes in part with the.
We're spiritual beings experiencing a human experience.
My niggas. So you know what I'm saying? That's it. That's where I'm at with it.
Energy is spirit. Energy is
as far as our purpose,
well, I don't think when they say all right. So when they
doing it, nigga,
this is what I gotta separate. When they say spiritual and energy, I gotta separate it
one and the same,
because I like to say I'm more spiritual than religious, but spirituality comes from religion.
Religion comes from spirituality.
Spirituality comes from religion. Listen, so the energy. All right, energy can be proven. It's scientific.
First of all,
but answer me this. Answer me one question.
Break down the word religion for me.
Answer me one question.
Break down the word religion for me. Can you?
I'm gonna get back to what we're talking about. Answer me one question. God damn it! Now you made me forget.
Spirituality comes from religion. You were saying.
Spirituality comes from religion. All right, so. All right, so energy, you can measure it. It's physical. You can measure it. You can see it. Even when you can't see it with the human eye, you can still measure it, right?
Agreed.
So it's scientific and it's factual and it's measurable.
Ultraviolet,
now, spirituality is faith-based. It's faith-based. You have to have faith to believe in it. It's not provable. It's religious. It's you got to have faith.
Religious is
but
something you
that's why I personally want to separate spirituality from energy, which I could see how it's easily can be considered the same thing, but it wasn't made to be considered the same thing. But nowadays, the common conception is, oh yeah, spirituality and energy is the same thing. Spiritual and vibes,
words,
spirits
like
and vibes.
Like
I guess it's all about the individual, how you take it as a person. I guess how you conceive it. Sure. But if that's what you mean, because that's what I mean, is we energy, no matter what, it's provable. We energy at the end of the day.
Period.
It's not. We're not a brain that's given consciousness. We're a consciousness that's being intercepted into this brain, We're an avatar, bruh. We're an antenna. We're an avatar. We're a receiver. The human body, Nikola Tesla was famously quoted for saying he's a receiver. The human body is a receiver. And he said he's pretty sure there's an intelligent life form out there somewhere that we can all tap into. We just... because we're all connected. We just don't have the ability. Maybe we're not consciousness enough.
We lost touch of source.
Source, individuality, and one with the nature.
What you need to do? You need to hit some shrooms, bro. You need to hit some shrooms, bro.
About that life. Only if they blue. Dog. Only if they blue.
Yeah, you die if they not.
Only if they blue.
Yeah. That is, man, I'm telling you. Yeah, we're basically saying the same thing.
About that life. But yeah, for sure. But I mean, at the end of the day, I got to give credit to the Sumerians because you gotta even, I mean, it goes back to the story, bro, the Anunnaki, bro, the gods in the heavens that they seen and they came to earth and all the shit that's in the tablets, bro. These dudes were not just writing bullshit down. They were telling stories, which might have been a story that predated their civilization. Maybe it might have been a story from fucking Gobekli Tepe or whatever, and nobody knew. So they couldn't write it down then. But now that they could write it down, we're writing down what happened 400 years ago. Just like the fucking Bible. You want to believe in Jesus and Christ? That shit wasn't written down when it happened. It was written down 300-400 years later. Just like the shit that could have went down at Gobekli Tepe. It could have been the Tower of Babel.
Who knows?
And shit could have went south. I mean, listen to Graham Hancock. The guy is talking about a meteor hitting the Earth in North America, and he's talking about a civilization that's ancient in America that was here that could grew the same time that Africans were growing. We were growing in America, or not we, because I don't know where I'm from, but The dude is onto some shit because now they found an aphorensis, or they found a Homo erectus in Georgia that dates back 2 million years old. So they left Africa 2 million years ago, or were they evolving in everywhere on land like that?
That's what I'm saying, man.
But we know Africa as creating life in
it's motherland.
We walked out of Africa. We were in trees and we walked out of Africa. We know that. And we went up north and we split and we went everywhere else. But up to 50,000 years ago, there were like 4 different like subspecies of humans growing at the same time, evolving, living, coinciding with each other, and they all died off. How we here?
That's how you get.
I mean,
facial features and shit. Evolution.
Neanderthals are still here because everybody in this room and everybody in the world has a percentage of Neanderthal DNA in them. So they didn't die. We outbred them. And we could have diluted their species on purpose and bred them down to destroy them, maybe without killing them. But that's what happened. The only people that don't have Neanderthal DNA in them, which this is why they think life started in Africa, are sub-Saharan Africans. Sub-Saharan Africans are the only ones that don't have Neanderthal DNA in them. Damn. To this day. They never left Africa. That's why.
10 toes down.
Shout out to Africa.
10 toes down, nigga.
Shout out to Africa. Shout out to Kenya.
Mama,
shout out to the National Republic of the Congo.
All them countries. Zimbabwe.
He looking.
Nigeria.
Uganda.
Libya.
Uganda.
You know Madagascar is wild, bro. That's a little
Madagascar.
island.
Chad. Chad. Moron.
Shout out to all the zebras.
Nigeria.
Morocco.
Somalia.
That's all I got.
Ethiopia.
I could probably name at least 10 countries or 20 countries out of Africa.
Besides the ones you just named?
No, including the ones I just named, asshole. Or else I would have said 30, bitch. But yeah, I mean, I did some research. I like to look at that map. I got the globe there for a reason because it's definitely not flat Earth, which I had a flat earther on, and he was unconvincible. Yeah, I presented more facts of the Earth being round than he did, which he didn't say he was a flat earther. He said he was a globe denier, that we're not on a globe that's spinning in space, but he couldn't prove it. And then he tried to deny the ice wall, the flat Earth, and the ice wall in Antarctica. And then eventually I got him to open up about it, and he started talking about the ice wall. I'm like, oh, so you do believe it? And I caught him on a few times. Like, you know me, persistent as fuck.
You know me.
Yeah, nah.
You know me,
I'm
baby.
I'm gonna get it out eventually. I was pressuring him. Brandon's like, calm down. I was like, bro, he's spending 30 minutes editorializing about one question without even giving me a 30-second answer. Like, come on, skip the story, bitch. Give me your answer. Like, yes or no.
Tell me.
I
want to know.
I mean, I liked it. It was intellectual though. I mean, I liked it. It was intellectual. He was arguing from an educated standpoint. The dude was in his 50s. He's been on 2 shows in the UK. Shout out to Robert Matthews. He signed my board. But yeah, the Earth's not flat, my dude.
Yeah, I dig the ball.
I don't subscribe to that. But
all right. So if you don't think the Earth is flat, this is a few things that you can do to prove that the Earth is round. And I think Hippocrates and a few of the ancient Greek astrologers, they figured the circumference of the Earth within like 3 degrees, like they were fucking perfect, and they were just measuring shadows at equinoxes or shit like that, and solstices and equinoxes, and they were measuring shadows.
Ancestors were doing
and not only that, all right,
nigga.
if you're wondering right now if the Earth is flat or round,
if
you're wondering right now,
talk to me.
If the Earth is flat or round, and you want a project you can do at home to prove it yourself that it's round, this is the most simplest thing I can come up with, and it's facts, right? Go to the countryside or anywhere that's an open plain. Okay. All right. Lay down on your back. Watch the sunset on the horizon. This is your horizon. The sunset's behind in the horizon. The sun's coming down. Watch the sunset behind that horizon. Once it sets, stand up. You get a second glimpse of that sun. That can only happen on a curvature Earth, a round Earth. Because if it's flat, it's underneath it. You ain't going to see it again.
When you stand up?
Yeah. But since it's that curvature, you'll still get a second glimpse of that sun still there. It only happens on around Earth. Science. Anybody can do that at home.
Science.
There's suspension bridges in New York, California, all over the world that were constructed with with the conception of the Earth being round in the construction. They had to take in that idea. The Crossrail tunnels in London, they're so long that they had to account for the curvature of the Earth.
Snipers, they have to account for the curvature.
That's not even. The Sumerians knew the Earth was round when they depicted our solar system on their tablets, and they had Nibiru, the planet from the Anunnaki, which is verified by NASA now, and they're calling it Planet X.
Sun disk planet, the wing planet, something like that planet.
Yeah, but so what do you think about like the whole Anunnaki? Do you believe what's going on with that or no?
So I'm here to say this. I wasn't there, so I don't know, but it's a strong possibility. I mean, why not? Them guys, they like you said, they created all this stuff, right? Law, roads, cities, all this shit. But we're gonna give them credit for that, but then discredit them for where they say they got their information from. Like, I don't know, it's kind of kooky.
Exactly, that's what I think. Also, I think they're so credible for like all the shit that they established and all their inventions. But then when it comes to their history of the creation of man, we discredit them because they talk about aliens coming from another planet and genetically, engineering us. Which coincidentally, those stories basically, you can see them told through the same thing over time throughout different religions the whole time though, but just slightly different ways.
Like that. Yeah, sure. Like I said, the story of Jesus is told in many cultures, way older than Christianity.
Facts.
Yeah, so that's a thing.
And Jesus is not a real person. He's not historically proven. He never walked this earth. He's a made up name that's only 400 years old though. But the Yeshua, he's a real person.
So as far as like the Anunnaki go though, like I mean, who knows though? I don't know. Like, and then you can ask, so why don't they interact with us now? That's a good question.
I heard that they still do. That's why everybody's trying to rush Area 51 right now.
You think that?
Duh. Let's see them aliens. Let's see them aliens. They can't stop us all. They can't stop. Hey, they can't stop us all.
You know what's gonna happen when they rush Area 51? They're gonna get fucking neuralized,
slaughtered.
I don't know. I think that's a genius idea, and I think they should do it for real because I want to see what really fucking happens.
You should go, dog.
First of all,
I think that was a smart ass plan for them to watch. Like, we're gonna rush Area 51. Now somebody's watching it to see if they move anything out. If they move some shit out, like, yeah, they are hiding some shit. But bro, the stories I heard from people that said they worked at Area 51 or the sectors around it, bro. I mean, dudes was talking about they went in there. They're like a light is illuminating from nowhere. Like everything under the ground and in the mountains is higher technology that you never seen on Earth. They're saying the light is illuminating from nowhere. They see no light switches, no light fixtures, but everything's lit. They have no shadow. Like it's fucking wild. They can't find lights, and they're like they go up to this technology. And he's like, I put my hand up to touch this technology.
Mr. Lazar?
And nah, it's another dude. He's like, I put my hand up to touch this technology. And he's like, I noticed I had a shadow then. So he's like, I thought it was some like heat reflecting alloy metal or whatever that seen my heat sensor and it followed it up. But he said he noticed that his shadow had like a 2-second delay. Like he put his hand up and then bro, fucking wild, bro, wild. And he said he was working on a different type of rocket booster, like a propulsion booster, when everybody else was still working on rockets. Yeah. And he said he launched from his farm. At 13, he launched a rocket into outer space, and like NASA contacted him or somebody or some kind of government, like, yo, come make rockets. And he was basically explaining what he walked through in Area 51 was basically a big enough version of what he created, but big enough that he could walk through it, bro. And like the details were crazy, like the credentials are crazy. It's just like, he worked there. Maybe he's just making up a story, though. Like, you never know.
Definitely think that there's more than one of those Area 51 type deals.
I think Area 51 could be a controlled opposition. It could be a front. Make us think shit's there, but it's really somewhere else. That's how they do. That's how they do everything.
Have that shit planned for months, like to happen, bro. Come on, like no.
Besides alien shit, like they definitely do tests out there, like. The stealth bomber and all these jets like that they had back in the 60s.
Yeah,
and stuff
I mean, what was his name?
So
what was the
cool.
great theory of relativity? Einstein. Albert Einstein. He was engineer. He was contracted from the Navy and the government, and they got caught up in that Philadelphia experiment. That was Einstein. They were trying to render a ship invisible using like some kind of sonar, radar, radiation wave, all that shit. Yeah. And they ended up looping it in time to somewhere else and shit, like, and it came back. Like this shit's wild. I'm doing an episode about that, but it's just like that's just one of the things that's out there and shit, bruh. It's Einstein. He's quoted. Somebody, a reporter asked him, "How does it feel to be the smartest person in the world?" Yeah. He's quoted for saying, "I wouldn't know. You have to ask Tesla."
Oh, word? That's dope. Yeah, can you imagine? Who's the brightest mind now? I want to talk to that nigga. I want to ask him some questions.
That's why I don't got my Einstein poster up no more. Elon, he's there. That dude sold his first computer program at 12 years old.
I want to talk to dude is there. I want to ask him some questions. Like,
sold it, not created it. It was created before. He said he knew he was different at like 5 years old. Yeah. He's like, I knew I didn't think the same way the kids around me thought.
I wonder what he talked about like at 5, like
robots and computers and not girls and boobs.
He wasn't thinking about Blumpkins.
He didn't. I think he's like Tesla. I think his private life with females is a front. I think his he's like the owner. That dude's the co-founder of Tesla. That's his shit. He got private investors, but that's his shit. And SpaceX, that's his shit too.
But I mean, like, as far as like his where he comes from.
I don't trust that nigga.
He comes from here, America.
What? Why does he have an accent?
Elon Musk? He don't have an accent.
Yeah, he does. When he talks, he has like this weird fucking ambiguous accent.
Because he's smart, bro. Because he's a fucking robot, dude. Who fucking knows? That dude's from Pennsylvania. He's from like the most American. He's from Montana and shit.
What the fuck?
He's from the most American motherfucker. But yeah, I like that dude, dog. He's trying to colonize Mars. He's trying to do big things. Just his reusable rockets that land on their own in the exact same places that they took off from. And not only that, he said the landing's about to be so precise that they're literally gonna land into the little brackets that they took off from, bro.
So how lazy is NASA that this nigga's like, you know what?
They're using.
You heard
about this is why, because NASA takes $80 million to build a rocket. He could do it in 12, and it's reusable. So they're using him as the payload. He's contracted for NASA's payload. He broke a record last year for like over 22 launches for NASA. Bro, this dude right now, he already got approved and he already started it. Over the next 5 years, he's launching over 3,000 satellites into outer space he's trying to give everybody worldwide Wi-Fi or some shit like that. But who knows? There might be some HARP, some weather control shit though.
Oh, that's already
dude, yeah, that brain.
I mean, but the satellites that he's launching could definitely control some other shit, bro. You never know.
You never know.
Anunnaki message. Hey, but yeah, the Sumerians, bro. The Sumerians, they credit for everything, and they deserve the credit for a lot of shit that they got credit for.
They deserve that shit.
For sure. Like, I want the credit for it. Give me credit when my credit's due. Fuck that.
Are you from there?
I don't know where the fuck I'm from. I know I'm Irish, Italian, Indian, and German. Native American and German. Irish and Italian. It's wild.
Dog.
It's wild, bro.
It's wild, dog.
It's wild. And I know that I haven't done ancestry. It would probably pop up, European and, everybody probably got African descent, but I probably don't. Maybe my ancestors do. I was manipulated from this, and this, and this.
You got somebody hanging to your tree.
I mean, I talked about it in my human evolution episode.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole reconstruction from the ape to our bone structures, and in geographical time frame, it was an overnight, bro. We from us to evolve from an ape, we would have to lose 2 chromosomes. That's devolve. We would have devolution. We would have to devolve to come from an ape.
We all have Down syndrome.
Our voice boxes would have to drop to a certain specific where we could make tones the way we do now and talk, and we could cut sounds into syllables. Apes can't cut sounds into syllables and shit.
Oh, okay. I'll take that.
I mean, it's facts.
I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think that we come from apes.
At the end of the day,
I don't know. You ever looked at
why are apes still here? If we evolved from apes, Don
Cheadle's the man.
If we evolved from apes, why are apes still here? But then they try to say we adopted. They don't even know how our brain got to fucking 1,400 cubic centimeters and shit.
I don't know.
They think it's the diet. Maybe we started eating seafood. Maybe we started eating cooked vegetables.
I don't know how true this is, but I heard that apes are in like the Stone Age. They've entered the Stone Age.
I've heard the apes entered the first age of the Stone Age, as in they're using tools to crack open food. I've heard that. I've also heard that. And so that's evolution in front of you. So obviously,
the apes about to happen right in front of us. Just gonna let that shit happen?
Obviously, we didn't come from apes, or else that wouldn't be happening right now.
Right.
So we didn't come from apes, but you don't want to know what else is evolution? Humans are still evolving.
Yeah, what's the next step?
Think about this. What if there was humans here that knew a catastrophe was going to happen, and they were able to planet hop to Nibiru or whatever that was coming around? They left. Listen, at the end of the day, they left. Okay. Right? Yeah. They're smarter. They're more advanced. Gotcha. They don't eat the way we eat. Gotcha. There's no reason for the jaw muscle or all the teeth because they don't chew the way we do. Their food is in capsule form, as in their food is in capsule form, as in they're getting all their proteins and everything they need in the caps. Right? It's a pill. Yeah. All right. So at the end of the day, they leave Earth and they evolve off of Earth and wait for all these catastrophes to settle down. They come back, whether it was the fucking thing that killed the dinosaurs and smoke and ash covered the Earth and then nobody could live here. So, and then when they finally came back, they see people were evolving again, and we look at them like oh, they aliens, but they were here before us. They were here before us, and they left. Because, they don't use the jaw muscles no more. But here's something to go along with this. This is a fact. 1/3 of the population right now is being born without their wisdom teeth. What? That's evolution because we don't use them. We don't need them. So we're being born. 1/3 of the population is being born without their wisdom teeth right now.
I mean, nobody's born with their wisdom teeth, though, right? Don't you grow them?
Like, they're being born without that genetic gene that.
So people are not having wisdom teeth.
Exactly, 1/3 of the population are being born without.
Idiots.
That's evolution. That's evolution in front of you because we don't need them and we don't use them, and that's why people are being born without them now. We're still evolving
that's technology. Too. That's fucking Google at your fingertip. That's why we don't have wisdom teeth no more.
But at the end of the day, Jay-Z and Beyonce could pay for the color of their eyes of their baby and shit. So, or anybody, that got the money. Japan just genetically hybrided twins that couldn't contract HIV. What? They took out
that's cheating.
They took out a genome code that contracts viruses, and they could never contract HIV.
Cheating. You can't do that.
And the doctor, it was presented at a seminar, and the doctor went missing at the seminar. They can't find him no more. Like, bro, it's wild. Look it up. This shit's wild. It's in Japan like 2 months ago, a couple months ago, or some shit.
You just give everybody AIDS, and then they win. They're the winners.
Shit is wild.
That's cheating. All right, well, that's nuts. Fuck. Yeah, no, but for real, you think you can change the color of your kid's eyes right now?
Yeah, they have the genome codes, and they can do it. Bro, we cloned that goat in the Great Britain. They cloned that goat in like 93, and that goat lived for like 4 years.
Before that.
I mean, a goat though. Yeah, I mean, they probably
like
have.
70s,
I mean, Hitler was trying to do that shit. So who fucking knows?
The Greeks and the Romans were doing that. Anthropology, I think that's what that shit called.
There's definitely signs of signs of ancient brain surgery and shit like that. So they were doing some fucking shit back in the day.
You think that's real? A minotaur, half horse, half.
Nah.
What's that fucking dude's name?
It don't mix.
Narnia, the half goat nigga.
Nah, that shit would never happen.
You don't think so?
Nah, not unless the Anunnaki did it. How else is it? It ain't gonna happen naturally.
I mean to laugh.
It ain't gonna happen naturally. That shit don't mix.
That shit don't mix.
So unless it's
like oil and water.
Unless it's the Anunnaki, that shit ain't going down like that. But yeah, I mean that's when it goes back to that's why the Sumerians were left out of the history books because they talked about the human creation coming from otherworldly deities, otherworldly people, or otherworldly beings. I choose to agree that there are other people out there on other planets like us because we ain't special. How the fuck we here and nobody else could ever be here?
We're not the pinnacle.
So I choose to believe there's other people rather to choose this fairy tale shit that these people got going on in their heads about these religions, about this bullshit. Like, come on, bro.
Oh, you know what that is.
We don't need that. I'm just playing. We need that.
Yeah, no. I don't know. What I get caught up on is their technology that they had. The shit that they was capable of doing, even the temples that they build, like I said, a megalithic stone.
But think about the shit that's underwater that predates the shit that's still on land.
So
like
talk
off
to
the
me
coast
about
of
that.
Japan.
Why do you think it's in the water?
Of course, there was a ice cap. At the end of the old ice age, when the ice caps melted, or your boy Greg Hancock likes to say a meteor hit. Graham.
Sure.
He likes to say a meteor hit a mile wide ice cap.
So
that's why there's no impact crater, because it hit an ice cap.
Here's the options they give you of how they got there. It's like because they could give you a time period.
This is what theories from mainstream idea.
Sure, yeah, of how it can happen. Like these niggas had the technology to fucking take the stone with snorkels and gorgles and scuba gear and fucking go underwater and build a temple, or they built the temple on land before the fucking this deluge or
older.
Happened,
yeah, it's
which
even
is
older.
Dated at a certain time where this flood happened.
Yeah. There's
12,000 years ago.
There's definitely architecture structures that predate Sumerian civilization.
Okay, thank you, brother. But
nobody's denying that, but they're not the cradle of civilization, though.
Sure, but still, they had. The point is, it happened. The technology to build a fucking temple, move those heavy stones,
for sure.
12,000 years ago, supposedly were fucking.
Look at the ones off the coast of Japan underwater. Those staircases and shit like that were made for giants, not regular humans. Maybe they were worshiping the giants that came from space.
Whoever it's made for,
because they worship because the Anunnaki. First of all, they evolved on a different gravity, so they probably grew taller. And of course, I think 1 year of our lifespan was they could live 3,600 years compared to our 1 year. And that's why when you get into the ancient Sumerian king list, which is documented, written down, the Sumerian kings list go back 250, 300,000 years. And the first king that was on there reigned for like 6 shars. And a shar was like a 3,600 year time period. So this dude reigned for like 28,000 years.
So I heard some theories on that, right? What do you think it is? But let me tell you what I heard.
I think it's exactly what they're saying it is.
So
it could have been the sign of Aries or Aquarius or whatever in the atmosphere, and they're worshiping this for so long. It could have been natural fucking Anunnaki that had that lifespan on their Earth and came to ours and was able to live for that long. If they're that advanced, if they're that advanced to get to our Earth, then they mastered immortality. They could live forever. They could advance themselves, their genes or their codes, and re-engineer it so they can live longer. If they can get to another Earth and travel, then they had to master mortality for the most part. So I think they were that advanced.
If there were humans, they were saying that they reached a level of ketosis to where your body is sort of like a jellyfish. Jellyfish can live forever if nothing eats it or fucks
They
it
just
up.
found a jellyfish that's like immortal, right?
Yeah.
That's over like, I don't know, a couple 100 million years
Same
old,
thing
literally.
With a couple
yeah.
animals, tortoises, fucking alligators, like they can live.
They predate back for a while.
Sure, but
I mean, they all came from something else that's older, but yeah.
The point is that there's creatures that are alive right now that we can know that they're hundreds of years old.
Hundreds of thousands or millions of years old.
That are alive right now that lived for hundreds of years.
Thousands or millions of years, that like alligators, they've been around for a long time.
I'm not talking
but
about
not that form of alligator. They evolved too because those alligators were.
I'm not talking about the existence of an alligator. I meant like one particular. Let's say you named an alligator Fred, and Fred can live for fucking 400 years. Is what I'm saying.
That's wild, isn't it?
Turtles can do that shit, like you said. Jellyfish is. So if animals can fucking do it, they're saying that these guys probably went into like a.
All right, you want to know some facts, and you can't argue this shit. You can't deny it. Look it up. Look it up and do the research. All right,
I'll do it.
Check this shit out. When the Tower of Babel happened,
Babylon Ting.
The Tower of Babel, where everybody was come together as one and could harmony and could and harmonology and could speak the same language and were together. They built a space tower to reach the gods, to reach the Anunnaki. They were going to try to go to space, and they came back down and seen it, and the Anunnaki, and they destroyed that shit. And at that time, everything was scattered out, and everything, was how do they call it? About time nobody could talk and
speaking in tongues.
Yeah, and I lost my train of thought again. What were we talking about right before that? But the Tower of Babel is fuck. Damn, I had a good ass explanation for what you were asking
I was
too.
talking about like how they can live forever. The fucking Anunnaki.
Oh, got you. All right. So they came back down. They destroyed
They
because
came
at that
down
time
about-
Abraham and all them were living for thousands of years and
yeah.
shit, like in the biblical, because the end of the Kings list lines up geographically with some of the shit, biblical shit, like Sumerian and all that other shit that basically has Sumerian bases, but we call it biblical right now. So it lines up with the end of the Kings list. And so when these Anunnaki's gods came down there and destroyed the Tower of Babel, they went to another land, like I think in Africa, and there was like wild people. And when they showed up there, wild people like were like rushing their spaceship, and like attacking them with rocks and stones and shit like that. And it says it in these texts that he held something out. The dude in the ship, he held something out, and it basically stopped everybody in their place, like sent out a shockwave or something. But at that time, they gave humans in these tablets. They say we re-engineered humans and gave them 120-year lifespan. Now, it's built into our telomeres, 120-year lifespan, and our chromosome number 2s. It's built into our telomeres, 120-year lifespan, and it says it in these old texts, and you can look it up scientifically. It's built into our telomeres. And our chromosome number 2, we have the lifespan of 120 years, and that's it. And that's from a text 7,000 years ago, and it's true right now, scientifically provable. So there's a lot of this shit you can't escape. You can dance around that shit and this, and that, because they put a lot of good arguments out there and make you think this and that. But, bro, that shit's wild. I've looked into it thoroughly.
So you're saying you can live to 120 years?
Humans now. Us.
Right now?
Us. That's our
Today,
lifespan. That's our lifespan.
I can live to 120.
Natural, pure life, eating healthy and shit like that. Probably not eating animals and eating healthy and shit like that.
Who's
And
wiping my ass?
we probably could live to 120 years. Look up. You can Google some of the oldest people that ever lived, bro, and look them up.
People that live to 100.
And that's it. It's bro.
Grandpa's
It's
still
scientifically
alive.
built
He's
into our
96.
telomeres and our chromosome number 2. Look that shit up. I don't even gotta tell you again. Just look it up. It was written in those texts when I was telling you that they came back with Babylon. They seen that we had lifespans long as fuck, so we had time to sit here and build shit and come up with shit. And they fucking limited everybody's lifespan to 120 years. In that story, the Anunnaki limited everybody's lifespan to 120 years, and that's provable scientifically in our chromosomes number 2 right now. That's exactly the amount of years that's built in, bro. We're genetically engineered from head to toe when you look at our DNA structure and shit.
Oh, yeah,
There's no way around it. And it's the same structure that's found in plants. It's the same structure that's found in animals. It's the same structure that's found in the cosmos.
Everywhere. Yeah, agreed. As above, so below, as within, so without. I'm with you there, buddy.
But I mean, it's like you said, it's all about the ways that you look at it and the way that you interpret it. And you want to go back, start reading the old ancient texts and the ancient apocryphs and
to those guys, my ancient ancestors, those guys. Who? Well, everybody that lived back then. That's who, nigga. What you mean?
oh, everybody's his ancient ancestors.
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah, because collective consciousness, right? Yeah, we all one.
For sure. I guess we all won. So it's everybody. So it's the Sumerians too.
Sure.
Don't lead them out.
I'm not.
Don't slide past them, bro. I'm telling you,
they're
everything that we have structured
they're
today is based
documented.
off of them, bro.
It's documented. Yeah, I'm not discrediting.
But
them
you
at
know,
all.
we already talked about it.
It's there.
Pre-civilization, that But at the end of the day, we're not the only thing that's here.
No, sir.
Or people wouldn't be trying to get into Area 51 right now.
No, sir. Are you going?
Hell no. I bet you a good amount of people do show up to go, though.
That's not a thing. You think so?
Yeah, I think some people are going to show up.
They're retarded.
I haven't checked it in a while, and I think the government deaded that shit, like on social media, because you haven't seen none. Yeah, but last time I seen it, it was like 1 million people attending, like another 600,000 was like maybe. It's like
distraction.
The dude that created it ended up commenting. He's like, "Oh, it was a joke. I'm not really gonna do it." Like trying to comment, made a post for the government, like, "It's not real," tagging the CIA or whatever.
What I got my survival kit.
Where you bunking out to when shit hits the fan?
Ooh, I can't tell
What you think? What you think is the next catastrophe that will happen? Logically, that's gonna stop everything in
I think
society.
we're gonna,
Nuclear.
ooh, we're on the verge.
North
of
Korea.
that.
I think I seen an
We're on the
article
verge
that
of that,
South
man.
Korea said North Korea launched 2 missiles yesterday or some shit.
I don't know. I don't
What you think is gonna happen? Attack from who? Russia? Korea?
I couldn't tell you. We're just.
You know nobody
Absolutely
can't fuck with us.
nobody,
We got
man.
that Area 51 technology, bro. Nobody is fucking with America, dog. I'm
Think
telling
so?
you for sure, bro. We're the highest, bro. Nobody's fucking with us, dog.
Those Asians are kind of smart.
They're smart, but they're not fucking with us, dog.
Crazy.
We got
They
we got all those German.
Nigga, they had PlayStation in like 1990. Nigga, we got PlayStation in 95.
It doesn't matter, bro.
Hold up.
It doesn't matter. They created some things. It was a wave. It was a wave. They had to see if it would take off or not. But nah, we took those German scientists, and that's who took us to the moon.
Okay.
That's who took us to the moon with NASA. It was a fucking German scientist
Them
that we
Russians.
came over here
Putin?
and that came over here in Operation Paperclip.
Putin's got a fucking.
Putin what? He got a
Putin's
moon base.
Yes, 3 of them.
My dude.
Yeah,
My dude been
Putin's
having
moon-
lunch with
yeah.
Eddie Bravo.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Once.
Putin's not on the moon, bro.
Putin's been there.
Hell no.
He's got a fucking luxury.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Fuck Putin in the ass, man.
Yeah.
He's never been to the
I'm
moon.
just saying. You don't think so?
Just saying.
Van
That's
Allen belt?
insane.
Nah, I don't know. I'm just joking. I don't know.
I'm just saying that. I'm
like,
just
yeah, I
saying.
want to go like literally buy a telescope and spend 24 hours just staring at that shit.
For sure.
What?
I told the
That's
flat Earth
Oh,
guy,
shoot,
Robert
bro.
Matthews, that he could watch time lapse videos of the stars, like bro, like the constellations moving and rotating like they're supposed to on around Earth, and that's rotating and spinning, like bro. But he's so in denial, bro. I was like, how come? If Earth is flat, why are all other visible planets round? He's like, those aren't real planets. He's like,
That's
if you
not
look
fair.
at those
It's
planets,
false.
if you look at those planets through a P92 cannon,
Look at
zoomed in, he's
Look
like,
at
those are energetic
nebulas.
orb balls, and like, I'm like, bro,
Orb is a circle. It's round.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm like, bro, they're fucking planets. We have fucking rovers on Mars right now. It's not an orb. It's not a. Or do it? You don't believe that either? Goddamn, you're
I
like
don't know.
super conspiracy
I'm not a
theorist over
conspiracy
here,
theorist. I just don't,
bro.
I
What are
don't-
you talking about? What is
I'm not a
the
conspiracy theorist.
Sidonia? There's a face on Mars,
Sidonia?
bro. There's
I'm
a
sorry.
face on Mars, right?
Yeah. No,
and
that's
crazy
not a
if
face
you
on
go
Mars.
if you go
That's
back,
not a face on Mars.
yeah, Sidonia is a face on Mars.
Nah, they showed you that was just like a crazy angle or something.
It was real, bro.
Like a
It was
crazy
real.
angle or
Fuck what you
something.
seen. Fuck the videos you seen. That shit was real.
Yeah,
And
I've
not
never
only
been
that,
there.
it correlates to ancient, I think Mesopotamia. There's a face, or there's something, or maybe even Egypt. There's a face or something that's, or there's a city that, ancient city in Egypt or Africa that was named Sidonia too. That has like the same kind of artifacts that you would find on Mars, bro. This shit's real. This shit's real. It's not an angle. They would try to say it's the lighting, the way it hits, but every time it goes around, different lighting, different hit, it hits different ways. It's the same shit, and it's more detailed. It's a fucking face. It's an animal face. It's not a human face. It's an animal face. There's 8-sided pyramids on Mars, bro, that you can look up and see. That were slipped up, and you can see the blur and the paint job that NASA does
for
on
sure.
most
That's
of their
a thing.
pictures that they're
That's a
released.
thing, for sure.
There's artifacts on Mars. There's machinery on Mars. There was civilization on Mars and shit. And there's still ice under the surface of Mars.
So I don't know. I've never been there. I just don't.
Me
think,
either.
I just don't think the shit that they show us about Mars is real. I don't think.
That's why you got to look for the truths behind it. That's what this show's all about. Is looking for them hidden truths that they don't show you. That X-File shit. That's what this shit's about. That you're looking for them hidden truths. Looking for them hidden truths that they don't show you, that they sweep under the rug, that they don't want you to know. That's what bring awareness to those things.
Hell, gee.
So, but that's what that shit's all about, bro. They of course they're not gonna give you. There's misinformation. There's misinformation agents, just like shit they did with the Black Panthers, misinformation, and get somebody in the crowd making your revolution violent, even though they're a
Really tough,
CIA and shit like that, you know, like,
Yeah, man.
and they infiltrate, and
That's real.
unfortunately, that's how they get down. They control a whole lot of shit, and we're probably all fucking brainwashed from TV,
We're
from
all
the electrics
idiots.
that's running
We're all
through.
idiots.
Running through from these fucking plugs in this bunker.
We're all idiots.
And yeah, bro, the lily wave. You ever heard of that?
Yeah, sure.
Lily wave.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's a thing, man. It's a fucking thing, and the thing is that people don't know about these things, but it's real.
that's what
Nobody
we're here
does
to bring
research.
enlightenment to that shit. They don't. They want to worship Jesus the whole time, and they want to go to church and give their 10%. And give their offering and think they're going to be saved and think that when the raptures happen, they're mysteriously going to be picked up and say, fuck out of here. There's no rapture. There's no Jesus Christ.
Right,
you're a fucking idiot and you're not going to be saved.
I know a couple.
It's time to wake the fuck up.
Jesus.
Even Jewish people don't believe in Christ.
No, they don't believe
Judea.
that he was the Messiah.
They believe in Christ as a person, but yeah, not the Messiah. But they believe in him as and these are modern Jewish people. They believe in him as the creator of Christianity, and that's it.
Yeah. So
there wouldn't be Christianity without Christ.
How you gonna argue about some shit you don't know? You wasn't there, nigga. You don't know. You don't know.
That's why you gotta look at those factual documents that were.
People die for that shit, though.
People die for that shit, son. No, they do all the time.
That's a real thing.
But I don't know. At the end of the day, there's not a heaven. There's not a hell. There's not a God. There's not a Satan. There's you, right? Your energy, right? Even if it's karmic energy, right? Your energy, right? Your energy first and your matter second. If there wasn't energy and there wasn't the vibrations to bring us this matter together, we wouldn't exist here on the plane that we exist here. So we're energy first, right? And energy isn't good or bad. Energy doesn't know what it is. Energy is energy, right? So it's the intent that you give the energy that defines where it goes. If it's a bad intent, then it goes bad. The energy's bad. If it's a good intent, it goes good. So it's the intent of that you give the energy. The individual person gives the energy that defines which way the energy goes.
I think good or bad is like a human construct.
For sure. It's with God and Satan is within all of us. Sure. That's why all these old ass indigenous tribes, and they believe in one with nature. They believe we are our own gods, and it's within all of us.
You're damn right. You're damn right.
Hey. But yeah, so hey, at the end of the day, it's just educated hypothesis based off of facts. Facts. Direct realist. Snapple facts.
Under that cap, it'll tell you.
Yeah. Level 1 woke.
Boom.
But yeah. So we was give you a little bit about the Sumerians.
A lot of bit.
A little bit about how Jesus was a fraudulent. A little bit about the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Enuma Elish.
They got in there.
Enuma Elish is the 7 tablets, Sumerian 7 tablets of creation translated into Babylonian text. Yeah. And then we got into Semitic meanings for a few words that correlate with the religious and the Anunnaki and shit like that. I mean, the shit's crazy. Once you look back on everything, you just go through everything that I just said, bro, and start verifying that shit. The shit is fucking wild. I mean, I know because I read the shit myself.
But also,
so,
multiple source check.
Multiple source check.
Boom, pow. Yeah. Get a good bibliography or whatever the fuck they call that shit.
Get a good understanding. As an individual, I guess the information affects everybody different, right? It's all how the individual takes it or the individual interprets it. But at the end of the day, we have technology that proves we're energy, that we're all energetically connected, cosmetically, karmically, whatever, how you ever want to say it, we're all connected. And it's collective consciousness. It's the shit Nikola Tesla was talking about. It's the shit that you can feel. It's the shit like they have instruments around the world that probe like human, I guess, tension or vibration or whatever. And they said, when Princess Diana wrecked, those around the world, those human emotions spiked on those probes, those scientific probes, proving consciously that we were all connected and affected and feeling the same shit at the same time when that happened. And the same thing happened with 9/11. Wow. And the same thing happened when Tupac died. No, I'm just joking. But that shit would have been dope. But it did happen when 9/11 and Princess Diana. Ooh. Shout out.
That's funny.
I did my Tupac episode. I still got to do a part 2 to that. We covered a lot of information, but there was a lot of lyrical information that I still wanted to cover about that. It's just crazy, bro.
I think we touched on some good subjects tonight.
Yeah, for sure. So it's getting late. We had a good episode, good argument, good debate, good conversation.
Good debate. Yeah.
Good everything. Everything.
For sure. Sure.
But yeah, so like we always told you, it's it's level 1 woke. It's the first step to waking up. We guiding you upon your your journeys to awakening, third eye opening shit. So follow it, research it, look it up and verify it. If not, don't listen to it. Holla. Happy podcasting, fuckers.